Good evening. It's 6 o'clock, or 6:01 actually. I'm Mark Howell. This is the Concord Select Board meeting on October 6th, 2025, and I see everybody is here.
Okay.
So
comments?
with that, we'll move to public comment. Public comment is up to 3 minutes. We'll take up to 15 minutes of public comment. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to be recognized, please use the raise hand feature, and we'll call on you, and you'll be asked to unmute. If you're in the audience, please use the podium. Do I see anybody who'd like to approach to make a public comment? See a lot of standing up and sitting down back there. Okay. Do we have anybody online that wants to make a public comment?
Raise your hand.
Seeing none? Going once? All right.
All right.
Moving on, the consent agenda, please.
Okay, so does anyone have any comments on the consent agenda or any discussion?
I would like
Agenda.
to remove the September 8th meeting minutes.
9-8? Is that just for separate discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments? I'd just like to, before we vote on this, just acknowledge two gifts that are in the consent agenda for those who may not have it in front of them. There was a $1,000 gift to the Council on Aging from Kim Reed and Munar Punjabi. I want to thank them for that gift. And then a very generous gift of $7,700 from the Concord Carlisle Youth Baseball Softball Team for the maintenance of Ripley Field. So again, a big thank you to that group for that recommendation.
Thanks.
So with that discussion, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the September 8th, 2025 minutes.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, so this,
Brings us to the town manager's report.
wait a second, let's
No,
go back to the
we've gotta go
September 8th minutes.
September
So
8th.
Cameron
Thank
had
you,
a
sorry.
comment
Yeah,
on
so
that.
I had two comments on the September 8th meeting notes. So one is on page 6
Yep.
of the meeting notes. So Mary, we had a little back and forth discussion. I think on that it should say, Mr. McKenna further clarified, there have not been any additional single-family homes added to the Concord inventory since 2005. With all growth in housing inventory coming from condos and apartments. That's how I recall that we were having that conversation. And then on page 7, I would like to add the sentence, Mr. McKenna pointed out that while members of the DEI Commission stated in prior meetings that Belmont has a town-based incident reporting system, his due diligence confirmed that is not the case.
Okay, Cameron, you're right. I think you did say that there have not been any additional single-family homes added since 2005. And so I think I'm fine with putting that in the minutes because you did say that. But I do remember at that time that I did question the accuracy of that. And we had a quick discussion. I don't think it was a productive discussion, but I would be happy with keeping that sentence in there as long as we add that I challenged those numbers.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I sort of agree
Yeah,
with
and
that
I'm
comment
also
as well.
happy to provide the data.
Yeah,
That's separate from the meeting notes.
Well, we can put that comment in these minutes as well from tonight.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I'd probably just like to add in response to the second one, that it has come to my attention, though, that on the belmontma.gov website, they are holding a discrimination complaint form for the Belmont Human Rights Commission. So it may be splitting hairs to say it's not an incident reporting system, but that is a current
So I,
live. And that came to my attention after the meeting, so it's not part of the meeting minutes, but I'm just flagging it for now in case anybody is watching this and thinking
sure.
that
I
Belmont doesn't
confirmed
have a
with the
system.
Belmont Town Administration and Select Board, so
Yeah.
I'm happy to,
It's live now.
happy to, anyways, I think it should be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Okay.
Paul, an additional comment?
Reflected in, so September 8th, page 8, minor comment on liaison reports. Mr. Rome shared that 2229's Main Street Advisory Committee, it's actually the Oversight Committee.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yep.
Again, on the next line, the Oversight Committee, and to develop it's a risk communication plan. It's not just a communication plan, so
okay,
those two minor changes there.
all right. So I know you sent those to Kristen as an email, but I don't see the word risk in it.
Right.
Okay,
It's an edit to my
Right.
edit.
okay,
okay,
so we'll just,
risk, okay.
So with all of that said,
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the minutes from September 8th, 2025 with the modifications discussed this evening.
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, and now we're moving to appointments, not the town manager's report.
Right, okay. All right, sorry, my page is ready. All right, so, make sure I get the right page. Okay, so I make a motion to move to appoint Agnes Lubega Kalisa of 12 Nathan Pratt Drive as the DEI Commission representative to the Bias and Hate Incident Reporting Work Group for a term to expire at the conclusion of their work. And then we have several town manager appointments, including Francis Cummings of 100 Newbury Court to the Climate Action Committee for a term that expires May 31st, 2028. And Peter Noble of 73 Coburn Hill Road, retroactive appointment to the Commission on Disability for a term from June 1st, 2024 to May 31st, 2027. Jennifer Brook of 31 Oxbow Road to the Commission on Disability for a third term to expire May 31st, 2028, and to be exempted from APP 10, Section 8B. Janet Byer, 52 Authors Road to the Commission on Disability for a third term to expire May 31st, 2026, and to be exempted from APP 10, Section 8B. Andrew Kirkpatrick of 94 Sorrel Road to the Commission on Disability for a partial term to expire May 31st, 2026 for the purpose of staggering terms on the commission. Laura Will of 1128 Old Marlborough Road to the Commission on Disability for a partial term to expire May 31st, 2027 for the purpose of staggering terms on the commission. And Robert Simone of 13 Davis Court to the Commission on Disability for a partial term to expire May 31st, 2027 for the purpose of staggering terms on the commission. That's it.
Okay,
So I have a question. The two third terms for the Commission on Disability, one is going to expire May 31st, 2026, and one is all the way to 2028. Is there a problem with recruiting people, or what's the issue that we have third
No.
terms?
No, so there actually are a lot of interested parties for the Commission on Disability. The one extension for a full third term
Yep.
is for an individual with particular expertise, and I did include that in the memo. She's a landscape architect, and this request is in recognition of her unique experience, skill set, and perspective that she brings to the Commission's work. In particular, the Commission is hoping to undertake a specific study on barriers to facilities, buildings, and they feel that having her during this next term will be particularly beneficial. The other individual, it's just for a partial year, and it's just to give the new members and the new commission a few months to work together without having so many new members at once. What we found is that we had a lot of members who had served for a long time on the commission, and some may have had exemptions, and some may have been acting under the impression that they had exemptions from the term limit. So we're trying to clean this up in recognition of the fact that we have a lot of individuals with a lot of talent that are interested in serving on this commission.
Thanks.
Great.
And can I just confirming that the Climate Action Committee is a those are all, the town
Yes,
manager appoints everyone in
yes,
that
the
committee?
Climate Action Committee is a town manager committee.
With select board approval.
With select board approval, right.
Yeah, okay, but that's how it's set up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions?
No, you had a second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
All
Thank you.
right.
Okay. For the chair's report, I just had a couple of dates that I was gonna mention. The October 18th, which is going to be a busy day in Concord, considering the expected political activity, has led to, October 18th, rather, it's a Saturday, there's going to be a time change for the governance training that the town clerk is running, to have it a little bit earlier in the day. I believe the times are 9 to 10:30 now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so I just wanted to note that for anybody that's planning on doing that. That is an opportunity for boards and committee members, and in particular their chairs and clerks, to get up to speed on things like open meeting law, taking minutes, signing clerks for meetings, and other things that are amongst the administration, but particularly important, especially for those boards that don't have staff assisting them at all times. And another sort of late addition to this, so that's open to anybody. I believe, are we taking registrations in RSVPs on that?
Not that I'm aware
Yeah,
of.
not that I'm aware of either. It's here at the Townhouse Hearing Room. And then on Tuesday, October 28th, we're looking to have a joint meeting with the Transportation Advisory Committee and the Public Works Council to kick off the discussion about the enhanced road program, given the bond authority. And we've been looking to get that scheduled. It's going to be at a somewhat unusual time for us. It'll be 4 to 5:30. That is also the evening which the town is going to be welcoming the Nanai delegation this fall. So there's the traditional potluck that is associated with that. So we're trying to stay away from that so that some of the select board members can also welcome our honored guests. That's what I had for chair's notes at the moment.
And then, is that meeting here? That joint meeting on Tuesday, the
That's a
28th?
good question. I'm looking
Okay.
at Andrea.
If we don't know, it's
Harvey
okay.
Wheeler.
That's what I thought.
Harvey Wheeler.
Harvey Wheeler?
Oh, it
She's
is?
nodding.
Yes, there's a
Okay.
shaking head from Andrea.
Great.
Okay.
That's the 28th at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah, 28th
Thank
at
you.
4 o'clock. It's a Tuesday. So we're meeting on the 27th
Great. Okay,
as
good.
well. Okay, and that's probably another thing worth noting for people. We did make an adjustment, actually also partially because of the visiting delegation. The select board is not meeting on November 3rd as previously published. We will be meeting instead on October 27th. So if you were teeing up something for that meeting, just be aware that we've moved that up a week. Okay, town manager's report.
All right, thank you and good evening. October is the month that the finance department and I spend a lot of time with all of our departments reviewing their budget requests. So we will be busy doing that. We're making good progress, but again, a lot of work happens this month. I will note that the Public Works Commission is meeting this week, and among other things, they will be reviewing the capital plan that was submitted by the Department of Public Works. The business manager in Public Works, Bob Hill, is retiring at the end of this week. He's been with us, I believe, 6 or 7 years, but he has more than 40 years of municipal service, and there is a reception for him on Thursday morning from 9:30 to 10:30, if anybody wants to stop by to wish him well. Public Works hosted a successful drop-off, swap-off event this past weekend. Last Monday, our new Chief Information Officer, Jeff Weiner, began work, and he came back again this Monday. So we were happy.
Always
We
encouraging.
were happy about that. Jeff comes, I know we sent out a news and notice, but I just wanted to mention that Jeff comes to us from the Wakefield Public Schools system, where he was the technology director and the district library services administrator. During his tenure, he developed a multi-year strategic IT roadmap and successfully implemented a cybersecurity training program, reducing phishing incidents by 60%. He is a U.S. Air Force veteran. One of his first major projects will be working on a disaster recovery plan. We will have that completed by the end of the calendar year, and we're doing that work with a grant that we receive from the state. It is Public Power Week. Public power utilities across the U.S. celebrate Public Power Week, the first full week in October each year, to help customers understand how they can better work with their community-owned utility and benefit from all of its offerings. It is also National Fire Prevention Week. This year's theme is Charge into Fire Safety, and focusing on lithium-ion batteries in the household. Let's see. Our Council on Aging is now open on Thursday evenings. Last Thursday was the first Thursday that it was open under a pilot program, and the intent here is maybe to capture younger seniors in the community that might still be working and not able to go to the COA during the day, or maybe not wanting to go to the COA. So the programming is geared toward younger seniors. And that is, so on Thursdays, now they will be open from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., again in a pilot program. This morning, our Health Division and our Economic Vitality Manager held a joint business forum. I believe that was well attended. The chair, you already mentioned the No Kings rally on October 18th. At some point, it would be nice probably to have the police chief come in and talk about all of the planning that goes into these events. This event is expected to bring maybe 3,000 to 5,000 people to town. We are securing resources from neighboring communities and regional partners, but I think it might be beneficial at some point for you to hear some of that planning, because it really is very extensive. I wanted to acknowledge our tourism office for their assistance in providing services at the bridge during the federal government shutdown. So we have a pop-up booth over there helping visitors. October is the busiest tourist month in town, and our visitor center has a table staffed over there, and we have set up some portable restroom facilities because the national park facilities are closed as well.
That's great. Thank you for doing that. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, and then
Covered by our award-winning Concord Bridge.
Right.
I wanted to mention, we also sent out a news and notices that the town received a $450,000 grant for regional climate resilience. This is a grant that was awarded through the Massachusetts Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, or MVP program. And the focus here is on the Suasco communities, building a unified regional framework, assessing vulnerability, and prioritizing shared solutions. Concord will be the lead agency administering that grant. And then, because it is the first of the month, you will find the town manager's monthly project report in the packet. We again have identified 12 high priority projects in the executive summary matrix. And then we have 25 other projects that we are tracking. And we have identified some key updates since the last report. I've already made a dozen notes here of updates since the report was issued. But we're happy to take feedback. We're trying to incorporate the feedback we received into the report format. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is probably about 15 minutes ago, the most recent issue of Concord Currents came out. I haven't had a chance to go through all of it, but it looks terrific as always. So I'd like to thank our communications manager, Donna McIntosh, for putting that together.
Great.
Thank you. The project report is very interesting, and I think it's a great addition, and I appreciate you doing it on a regular basis. It did occur to me that there are some projects like the Concord Middle School solar project, where the cost and funding is listed as TBD.
Yeah.
And yet there was a borrowing, and my recollection is there was a borrowing that was authorized to do that. So maybe when we may not know exactly what it's going to cost, but we also already know how something like that's going to get funded, it might be
Yeah.
useful to sort of track it in that way.
That's a good point. That's one of the notes I made. So the town
Yeah.
authorized $7.5 million
Right.
for that project.
Question on the other TBD costs and funding, that doesn't imply that those aren't underway, right? Those crisis communication plans, security projects?
No, I mean, so a lot of those, it's staff time. The cost really is staff time. And I did make notes there that we need to identify that in a better way because for a lot of those things, we're not projecting any additional cost.
So maybe just staff time.
Yeah, so I think it's great that we have this list of projects, so thank you for pulling that together, and I think there's sort of more visibility and information, right, than we've had before. A couple of thoughts. It's a little hard to tell whether they're on track or not. So, I mean, it's like things are listed as like high-risk project. I'm used to seeing a high risk as like something's gone amiss, and like what's happening, like, so, but I think we're sort of using a different definition of that. So I would just think about how we might convey, yes, there's like big, medium, and small projects, but also, is it on track? Are we delivering when we said we were? Or, kind of like, how's it going? Or are there any critical issues that are coming up that are going to be sort of, need to be addressed or need to be
So
resolved?
that whole
you.
effort on project tracking is exactly what
Yeah.
the Public Works and TAC and this meeting on the 28th is, they're thinking
Yeah.
of developing
Yeah.
a tracking program for all the projects, and
I noticed that it was helpful to read into the
details.
paragraph. and
Yeah, no, you can read
later,
into some of the
But
details.
it's
It just-
harder on the table.
When you see a headline that says, people are interested in cell phone service, you see cell phone infrastructure, multiple fronts, cost TBD, it's a little hard to know, are we moving, is something happening, or are we behind? And so it just, I think a little bit, just thinking about how we can, hit some of those key
Yeah.
highlights.
ideally, I don't want to put the group on the spot. The result of that effort is going to be actually a database with the public, and anybody can kind of click on a project and find out that information.
Yeah, and then you can drill down
So-
further into
Yeah,
the
no,
details,
so it's-
right? But
it's-
just,
it's
are there
kind-
some
it's-
headlines?
You're right. That's-
Red, yellow, green
it's
type of thing,
incomplete.
where are we at?
Oh, okay.
These are the highlights.
Yeah, no, I like an interactive platform because it is hard to capture everything on
Yeah,
a sheet of
yeah,
paper.
yeah.
So.
Yep.
Mhm.
But we would still have updates here at the select board
Yes.
meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
All right, well, the cell phone expansion one came with its own Spotify link, so.
Oh,
And so then, Terry, if I can switch just to another question, you
Yeah.
mentioned going through and reviewing budgets with folks, going
Yeah.
through sort of the different town departments. How are we kind of like challenging folks in sort of a time where we have, a lot of budget challenges and cost challenges? What are we asking them to come back with in terms of opportunities? Are we asking them to do any sort of benchmarking of how their departments maybe compare to, some other towns, other benchmarks that they might have in terms of, employees per, 1,000 people kind of thing, to just sort of say, hey, look, where are there potential opportunities for maybe managing things differently?
yeah. So we are doing benchmarking. We're finally doing more benchmarking than we have in the past. I have a list of questions that I'm asking that are based upon what has been submitted, it's different for each of the departments. We haven't started the meetings yet. I think tomorrow is our first meeting. To really drill into what the current ask is versus what they've had in the past, and has that money been spent? We have several opportunities to talk here at the select board about the status on the budget. I think maybe the next meeting would be a good place to check in, because at that point, we will have been through most of those department review meetings. But when we talked about it the last time, I had mentioned some additional FTE. My goal would be that even if we add a few different positions, it will be net zero. That we would be able to find some savings in other places, in recognition of the fact that, I know we're not able to accommodate anything more than a standard increase in budget.
I don't want to preempt the discussion, but since you brought the topic, it'd be very helpful, whether it's capital or FTEs, to identify sort of priority categories, must have, nice to have can be delayed, and there
Yeah.
are some things that, the essential must have replacements versus things that can be delayed, so that prioritization would help a lot.
Yeah.
I think we have that. At least I thought that you had 3 prioritized head count. That's how I understood.
Well, at a real high level?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just checked it. It is, we are planning on looking at the budget progress on the 20th.
On the 20th.
20th,
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
next meeting.
sounds good.
More on the town manager's report?
No.
If not, Sandy, is everybody here?
All
Okay,
right.
so we're going to welcome I'm going to call it the group that's presenting
The team.
tonight on the proposed addition to the Beatty Center of the Maisie O'Donnell Dryland Training Center. And that presentation is going to be kicked off, I believe, by Betsy O'Donnell and Christophe O'Donnell, and followed by Tracy Bird, Sandy Smith, and supported by Henry Danes and the CC Pool Group. So welcome to all of you.
Would you like us to come up?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to use the microphone to be heard, but you can take turns, and
Should we
I
all
think,
move chairs up or just?
yeah, I think
up one at a
that
time?
one, I'm gonna do this, and hopefully CC,
I didn't see
that one is probably, has the ability to be passed around if you wanna also kind of use that instead of having to lean in.
That take-
All right, yeah, just see if that works for you. It won't make any, it does not amplify in here, but it does enable the people that are watching us on Zoom to hear you, to speak into.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
So just speak up as though you're talking to me.
Well, we can do, sure. Okay. All right.
Betsy, why don't you?
Okay, sure. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
they do.
As long as the green light's on, it's working.
Okay, great, good. Great, thank you, Mark. We appreciate the time to make this presentation tonight. In addition to the 5 of us who are formally presenting, I want to acknowledge the presence tonight and the support over the last several months of the town staff who we've worked closely with. Jessica Porter, your assistant town manager, Lee Jackson, the recreation director, and Jenny Sicardo, the manager of the Beatty Center. We've enjoyed working with them, and they've been an integral part of helping us get to this point tonight. So we appreciate their presence this evening. I'll be brief, but before I introduce our specific presenters tonight, I just want to say that Betsy and Christophe knew they wanted to make this extraordinary gift to the town almost immediately after the tragic accident last April. It was really extraordinary, in my judgment. A group of 8 of us who appear on the 3rd page of your presentation were recruited within the first week after the accident. And I had a phone call in to Lee Jackson, I think, at the end of that week, and we met a week later. We then met with the Recreation Commission on July 9th, with the Regional School Committee on August 20th, and we're here tonight. So we, again, appreciate your time. Tonight, Betsy and Christophe in particular will tell you why they decided to make this gift and describe the benefits to the athletes who use the Beatty Center of having this equipment available for them. Betsy will begin by explaining how important diving at the Beatty Center was to Maisie. Christophe will follow to talk a little bit about the proposal itself, the status of the fundraising effort, and the small endowment that they hope to be able to fund to provide for repair and replacement of the equipment over time. Tracy Bird, who's right behind me here, is not only the head diving coach at Harvard University, but was the first diving instructor at the Beatty Center after the Beatty Center was constructed in 2006, I believe. So she's intimately knowledgeable not only about diving, but about the Beatty Center itself. I'll make a brief comment or two about the topic of governance, and as you pointed out, Henry Dane is here this evening. Henry was responsible for writing the documents for CC Pools, and was the one who actually suggested to us that we consider using CC Pools as the nonprofit vehicle for planning and construction of the project that we're proposing tonight. So Henry's the expert on the documents and the status of CC Pools. So with that, I will turn off my microphone, figuratively speaking, and turn it over to Betsy and Christoph.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Welcome.
Sandy. We truly appreciate the opportunity to be here and the time that you've allocated to us to talk about something that's very important. I always feel like I get the hardest job, but it is true that this was the first thing that immediately came to us as how we could honor our child. Maisie started going to the BD Center probably when she was 5, like we all in this town did, to swim and take advantage of the beautiful facilities that we are privileged to have here in this town. She became a diver in high school. She had been a gymnast. She dove for CC and also for Boston area diving, which is home. And for those unfamiliar with Boston area diving, that is an elite diving program here in New England. And, you know, the BD Center was more than just a place she went to train. It was where her friends were. Even after hours, Maisie went back every night to continue to work out. So she was known to all of the recreational staff as well. It was her home away from home. I'm pretty sure she spent more time there than at our actual house in high school. And diving was really important to her. She was a somewhat shy child, and it was the place where she really became her best self. And I think everybody needs a place in this world, and that was hers. And for us, that's how we hope that you will allow us to honor her legacy by creating a facility. One of the things that is that augments diving training, obviously you need the boards, but the ability to do dry land is very important for acquiring skill. I would be terrified to do the things that they do. And this is a mitigation strategy where you can learn to do things onto mats, in harnesses, and Tracy will talk a lot more about how that enables development. This is something that our divers travel to be able to use. It is not something that most high school and even club programs have. It would be a privilege to be able to have this. It doesn't require a lot of space. In fact, one of Maisie's happiest memories was going to Rochester, and they were in basically a storage vault that had one of these, and the kids couldn't have been more happy. It's fun, it's different, and it really does enable divers to excel, and this program and the BD Center really enabled Maisie to excel at a sport, but also just to be at home somewhere. And so we thank you, and we thank the town again for all the support. We thank our friends who have helped us in this process, and our friends who are in this room supporting us as they have since April 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll talk a little bit about where we are with the project specifically. But I do want to note, and Tracy will correct me if I'm wrong, that you know, BD Center already has a rich history of diving. Something like 20 to 25 state diving champions have dove there, men's and women's, over the last 25 years. So it is, we have an exceptional program here in Concord. And a lot of the neighboring towns actually use our facilities to dive, since they don't have their own pools. So, but we want to make it even better. And so specific to the project, we have raised close to $600,000 so far, and we have pledges from foundations to cover the difference. One specifically that's focused on amateur athletics that really sees mission alignment with what we're trying to do. The more remarkable thing, Betsy talked about the support in town. You know, over half the donations are from Concord and Carlisle residents. It's really remarkable, and we have over 700 individual donations. So it's we really feel the support, and we really appreciate it across the town. And one last thing on the funding here, we also feel comfortable that we'll have plenty of funds to set aside for an endowment to support the ongoing maintenance of really the equipment in the room. That's the part that'll depreciate the most. The rest of it is just really cinder blocks and some electrical items. So I think that's it. I'm turning it to Tracy now. You can talk in. You can talk.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here, and I'm just really, I get so emotional. I'm just so honored to be here. I've been coaching diving for over 40 years, and I had the pleasure of working with Maisie. And this is just such a beautiful gift, and I just want to say that in addition to it being fun and all those other things, this facility will also be a place to teach diving in a safer manner and more efficiently. So it has many attributes that will really complement what's already been established at the BD Center. And mostly I'm here for questions if people have diving questions. Thank you.
Tammy, you want to talk next? Tracy's done. Yeah.
Henry and I come up. When we were at the beginning of our work on this project, we focused strictly on the project itself, what the requirements were for providing space for the equipment, what the proximities were at the BD Center itself for putting a small addition on. And you'll see the results of that work in the presentation materials that you have for this evening. By the way, a hard copy of which each of you have. At the Recreation Commission meeting in early July, one member suggested that we consider organizing a nonprofit organization to manage the planning and construction of the project. And that there was, at the same meeting, there was some other support expressed for that notion. So we've thought about that, and we've talked with other people about it, and realized that there could be some significant benefits to the project if we were to do that. One would be some savings in terms of time, some savings, dollar savings potentially, as well as taking some of the stress of adding an additional project to the workload of town staff. We do feel that we want to try to move this project along as expeditiously as we can. We don't have a hard and fast deadline in mind, but we don't want this to get lost in a long list of other municipal projects. And we think that using a nonprofit would allow us to work sort of in parallel with the town and support this project that way. I got a copy of the intergovernmental agreement, which is referenced in the package, and had a question about it, and I called Henry because he had drafted the document, and Henry suggested that we actually consider CC Pools, the nonprofit which was established in the early 2000s to plan and construct the BD Center originally, as the vehicle for doing this project. And that has some additional benefits over and above the ones I just mentioned, including the fact that a lot of the documentation has already been worked out between the parties, the town, the school district, which owns the land, and the nonprofit itself, as well as the fact that it would qualify as an existing public-private partnership under the Select Board's PPP policy, which was passed after the BD Center was, well after the BD Center was constructed. So we think there's a compelling case to not only use a nonprofit, but also to use CC Pools if at all possible. And so Henry has agreed to be here this evening, and I don't know, Henry, if you want to make any general comments, or whether you just want to answer questions the board might have.
Many of you here may not know the history of the BD Center. That goes back over 20 years. Started out with the decision, there had been an attempt to get a swing facility at the high school for many, many years. and it never got any place. And then sometime probably, sometime about 20, 25 years ago, Jack Clymer, who was the trustee of the Sawyer Trust, decided that they would take some of the money from the Sawyer Trust and use that toward starting the process toward building this swimming facility at the high school. And so I formed this nonprofit corporation back then, which we called CC Pools. We set up a board of directors. We got federal tax exemption, and the fact that this worked and came up with this facility that was done totally with private funding and with a private board of directors who had necessary talents to get the job done, and we're focused on just getting that one thing accomplished. And it worked extremely well. The project was finished in a short period of time at the incredibly low figure of under $10 million in construction costs. Now, those savings result from a lot of things, including the fact that you probably all know that essentially the rule of thumb is that public construction costs essentially 50% more than private construction. And you don't get any additional value for that. And so, and you have a great deal of flexibility in terms of choosing your designers, including your contractors, and so you can get a job done. You can put together a committee, as we have here, that will be focused on doing this, and you'll save a great deal of money. Not only will we save money on the construction costs, but we will save money on things like legal fees, right? We'll get free legal fees from someone.
Thank you, Henry.
And so the most important thing to keep in mind is that in order to get this done, we had to jump through some legal hoops, and that required getting an opinion of town council, which we did get at the time. I think is still totally valid, that a turnkey project is something that is permitted under the procurement laws and on the laws dealing with prevailing wage. And I have a copy of that with me here, but the most important factor, I think, for us to consider right now was the one statement in that opinion from Palmer and Dodge, which was where they said, most importantly, public funds will not be used directly or indirectly for the construction of the facility. Construction would be undertaken by the nonprofit under agreement with a general contractor to which the town would not be a party. Until completion of construction, transfer to the town, the facility would be owned by the nonprofit. And I mention that now because the total independence from town funds and town involvement in the process is critical to getting the benefits of using it on.
Yep.
Not only
Savings.
the benefits, but critical to be able to use this mechanism in building this facility. And I think it's, and it fits so well because it's part of that same project, really. It's a continuation of the same project on the same land, has the same zoning and permitting issues. We went through all of the groundwater conservancy issues and all that once when we built BD Center. And so it seems like a natural. It's going to take some work to put this together, but not nearly as much as it would start from scratch.
Start with what, Henry?
Starting from scratch, starting from
Yeah,
scratch.
right.
So I think that I believe we've asked town council to look at this, and they're not quite done with it, but the obvious difference here is that there wasn't any structure there before, and now we've got an existing structure that's owned by the town. But I think that the idea that you're expressing makes total sense if it's possible to be done. And so today, I'm not sure, unless staff has any new updates, that we have that opinion in hand, but we're certainly looking to get an opinion that reads that way.
If there's an issue about the opinion, I think we would work to provide town council with the earlier opinion of
Yeah.
Palmer and Dodge on this subject.
That'd be helpful.
I have a copy of it. I happen to bring a copy with me. I don't carry it with me all the time.
Yeah. It's looking remarkably good for being in your pocket for 25 years. Okay, great.
So just while you're on that topic, so we're assuming that there would be no changes needed to the CC Pools agreement amongst the three different parties?
You know what?
We're sort of leveraging the existing arrangement, right? And we're assuming further that legal review is going to suggest that there's no changes would be required to support this addition.
Well, there might be
Right.
some changes necessary.
Okay.
And there might be, like, changing some dates in the agreements and in the leases and things of that
Mhm.
kind.
Yep.
The property that is involved is the same,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
property. It's already part of
Right.
the land that goes with the BD
Yep.
Center. We're gonna have to do some work to get the CC pools revived, which is something I'm glad to do.
Okay.
Because after we got done with it,
Yep.
after we got done with the swimming pool, our board of directors wanted to put it behind us,
Mhm.
and
Give it to
and
us.
so
Yep.
we tried to shut it down. There were some people who wanted to use it to build a track at Emerson Field, wanted to use it to build a hockey rink. That was one of the major projects that was proposed to us, and basically, and it would have worked, by the way, except everybody on that board says, we're just tired. We want to move on.
So you have to reconstitute the board. That's going to be critical. Yep, right.
Oh, the board?
Yep, yes, the board, and then,
The board of directors
Right.
is sitting here today.
okay, there you are.
Mary?
Yeah.
So if we do in fact find that CC Pool is the right mechanism to use, who would actually build it? I mean, who would manage the contractor and who,
The same way that we built the BD
Which-
Center.
which was the board?
The board of directors of the nonprofit
Yeah.
would hire an architect, hire a contractor, and supervise the construction.
Okay, well, I have the mic, can I say a
Sure.
few comments? First of all, I want to thank you very much for including the town in this. It's such an honor to be a part of this with you, to help the community heal. I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm grateful to you. I think that it's great for the Beatty Center. It's great for the community. And I'm so proud that you also included an endowment so that we don't have that burden going forward. But this is such a wonderful, well-thought-out project that I want to make it happen.
Paul?
And I agree, this is such a wonderful gift, so emotional and so worthy of your daughter. My mundane question is, the transition from construction to ownership, is that a seamless transition?
There was at the conclusion of the construction, one of the documents was a deed of gift from the nonprofit to the town.
Okay.
It was a formal conveyance, which was what was the planned intent, that the town would become the owner once it was completed. That's what they refer to when they call it a turnkey project.
Right.
In other words, we build it, we give you the key, you turn it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
And, I mean, the scale of this is obviously remarkable, but the mechanism that we're talking about isn't that different from the starting blocks that were just replaced at the pool over the summer. If you remember, a couple of months back, we accepted a gift of, I think it was around $75,000 from the Friends of
The blocks.
Right.
Yep.
Concord Carlisle Swimming or some, I forgot the exact name.
Yeah.
But they donated
Yeah,
the
you're
blocks. They were installed at the pool site over the summer during the shutdown. And so integrating it with the operations of the existing facility was, enabled us to accept that gift and take that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great project, echo all the previous comments there. Getting into the sort of how the machine works, what is it we actually need to approve as the select board? And
Tonight-
are you going to sort of doing a study, like, are you gonna come back with the study and say,
Yeah.
hey, now we have the specs, here's what we wanna build? So I'm not clear. on
Tonight, we
what-
don't have a specific action we need to take tonight, except for, I think, to express support for the concept
Yeah.
and encourage the continued development. We have in our package today, in addition to the intermunicipal agreement that outlined some of the operation that was the town manager and the superintendent of the schools at that time signed those. We also have a memo from Jess Porter outlining some of the issues that probably need to be thought about, like the ongoing efforts to replace the roof at the Beatty Center and some wall repairs and some concerns about what it does to the parking,
Yeah.
which I
Right.
think are obviously reasonable because it does take a little bit of space there. But certainly to my reading, those look like things that, and I'm glancing over in the direction of the deputy assistant town manager, those are things that are solvable. They're just, because the Beatty Center is in operation now, it's a slightly different project, but, and then eventually we would get involved in actually accepting this gift to the community.
So is there also a gift account that we have to consider here for
We
receipt
may
of?
want to do that. That, I don't think it's necessary at this time for sure. I think that it probably makes sense to get further down the road and really settle on the exact mechanism that's proposed
Okay.
before we launch into that. I would note that in the materials today, and maybe Kristen can put it up on the screen, if people want to contribute to this, I assume that contributions are still being gratefully accepted. There are ways for people to
donate.
support this project, and that was listed on one of the last pages there.
But if people contribute money to the town for this purpose,
Yeah,
we can't use it.
No, we're not
Right.
doing
yeah,
that.
not in
We're
this,
not doing that.
not in this
But
mechanism.
there is an existing mechanism, the nonprofit that is
Right.
already.
Right.
That's what I was alluding
That's been
to.
advertised, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
We're not
Right.
opening a gift account.
That's what I was
No,
alluding to
right.
in the presentation. There's a way for people to get
As
involved.
far as the documents go, I didn't bring the suitcase with me, but I
Yeah.
have every single document that was
We believe it.
used
Great.
in connection with the building of the Beatty
Yeah.
Center. The binder, as well as
Yeah.
all the 2 volumes of minutes of every meeting
Okay.
of the CC pools. We
Mhm.
have, everything is done. It may need to be amended or changed, but the basic framework is there. And the basic concept, using the intermunicipal agreement and the deed of gift and the land lease and all of that
Mhm.
is all in place, except for the change of some of the names and numbers.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that the beauty of this idea is that we can follow a path that's been used before.
There's a precedent, right?
Yeah.
Proven precedent that works. It's great.
And get it
Mark,
done.
Mark, I want to be sure that the board has a chance to ask questions of
Yeah.
Betsy and Christoph and Tracy as well, and because
Okay.
we're not going to resolve this issue of the
Yeah.
governance of the project tonight.
Yeah.
I think, so if you have questions about the
Just-
equipment or anything
Yeah.
else, that would be.
Simply for
be great.
me, it's just, has anybody raised objections or concerns?
I think I can say confidently that when we met with the Recreation Commission and the Regional School Committee. Both committees endorsed this unanimously. So we haven't had any significant issues raised to date.
So just quickly, could you just explain what you see when you walk in the room and what this does for the divers, just because it's
Some
fun?
Great pictures in there, yeah.
It's a fun
Yeah.
idea.
Yep.
Right, okay. Right, there you go. Tracy, do you want to come up here? Why don't you come up?
So in this 3D drawing here, so in the background is the trampoline. In the foreground is what's called a dry board, because it doesn't, you don't dive into water, you dive into a landing pit. In real life, the landing pit is a little bit higher than that, actually. And then what you see, the person in the air, they're in a harness. And so that is where you teach tumbling. So basically, in times past, not now necessarily with the college divers, but when I worked with young divers at Stanford University, a club program there, I basically taught them all their dives in this sort of a setup before they went in the water. So for example, if you were doing a back dive, instead of flopping and crashing and hurting yourself, you would do it, and when in the harness, you can gently land them basically in a handstand, and then they just step out of it. So they've physically gone through all of the motions safely, effectively. They know what it's supposed to feel like. They know what they're supposed to do. And it's just a really wonderful teaching method.
Tracy, can I add too,
Please.
as also a non-diver, I mean, the two most common injuries in diving from hitting the water the wrong way would be
Yeah.
concussions and back issues, right?
Yes.
For
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
injuries.
Yeah.
So this is a real thing. If you're trying to learn a new dive and you're off by half a turn,
Yeah.
you know,
Saw
you're
the
gonna hurt
difference.
yourself. So this lets them learn how to do that in a way that is pain-free. So,
And it teaches, they actually learn body awareness, body control, how to stay tight in the air, so it actually prevents, even when they're not in a harness or in these facilities, they just do a much better job moving forward, so.
And then the thing in the back is the trampoline,
Yeah.
right? So
That's
that's
that.
the piece where you're learning flips and it's a little
Mm-hmm.
more, there's no harness there, but you're a little more, learning how to control your body in the air.
See that?
And one thing to note too, I mean, this was the experience that we had as parents with Maisie. Many diving facilities have one of these pieces of
But not
equipment,
both.
or, they may have a trampoline tucked away in the corner that they pull out at certain parts of practice that they can use, but then they have to tuck it back because they're storing it on the deck. And of course, you had to travel to those facilities. So we've been to Wellesley, BU, Harvard, all the, schools, and surprisingly, not all of them have everything, right? So to have this here would have been, tremendously valuable to Maisie, so that, you just don't have to travel over Kingdom Come.
The technology seems basic but elegant here.
Yes.
Has there been any evolution in the technology? Is this evolving, or is
AI
this the
hasn't hit this part of it. But,
We're working on it. Cutting edge here in Concord. Yes, it's very basic. And
But is this, 20 years from now, will this be the technology that's being used?
that's an excellent question. That's a really, really good question, and I can't fathom. And I've been in the sport since I was 7, so it's hard for me to imagine, anything different on a dry land, in a dry environment.
Anything
yeah.
that works better, probably.
I mean, they have
not.
upgraded in waters. There's actually spotting harnesses and spotting rings now that they actually build in the rafters of swimming pools, and they actually do that into the water. So there has been evolution, but not in this situation. And, go ahead.
And you'll see this equipment in gymnastics gyms
Yeah,
as well.
I've
It's
seen
pretty
it.
similar, for harnesses to protect, anytime you're in the air, if you land the wrong way, you can injure yourself.
Yeah.
And certainly trampolines, that's very common in gymnastics.
And it's much more efficient teaching method, because in the water, you go into the water, you come out, you shake your head, you say,
Yep.
what? But you get in line, whereas you can get multiple reps over and over and over.
Yeah.
So the learning is much
Repeat-
quicker as
yeah,
well.
repetition.
So one of the things that you said at the Rec Commission was that this would be an opportunity for the BD to attract more
Yeah.
people to it. So
Yes.
has anyone put together any numbers to show what you think the potential benefit would be to the BD Center? I'm looking more at Lee or,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Good.
And I assume, I see a spotter there, right? So this is a room that really should only be used by trained professionals, right? So we're going to guard somehow for other kids getting in there, just trying to play, right? So will this
Yes.
be sort of locked doors and,
Yeah, exactly. It's got a single door.
yeah,
Originally, it was, the architect thought, oh, open it up to the pool, and for many reasons, that did not make any
not a smart
sense.
move, right? Yeah.
And so, yeah, it can be closed off, yeah. And that was, everything is safety. I mean, that's one of
what I
my
figured.
things is safety, and
Yeah.
all those safety measures have been looked at carefully, because,
Yeah.
of course, we
I mean,
want
it's
everybody-
very simple, but it's a very important addition to the BD Center, and I think it's just a wonderful addition, so thank you for bringing it forward.
Yeah, I think maybe just for the public that's watching that hasn't looked at could we bring up the floor
The
plan
floor
that sort of
plan,
shows
yep.
where it's going to be relative to the,
Yeah,
relative to
that's a
the,
good photo, too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah, so
It's
that's,
in the back. yeah.
that's basically built off the back wall, or the side wall, I
Sidewall.
guess, of the
Yeah.
diving pool area. And I was thinking of the one on page
Just a look down.
7.
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. So
That one's
the
good, too.
overall facility there with the existing facility in gray with the dive pool and the small,
Mhm.
and the addition there. So
Mhm.
it's kind of down the hill and,
Mhm.
So the current dive well is the blue, the smaller
Small
blue
blue,
rectangle?
yep.
Right,
Yeah.
Yes.
right.
So this
It's right
new
next.
space would be immediately adjacent
Adjacent
to
to
where
it,
the
yeah.
divers are already
Yeah.
gonna be
Exactly.
practicing.
but again, behind a door that was controlled by a coach or some other
Correct.
Yes,
trainer.
yeah.
Correct.
Okay. This is a wonderful idea.
It is.
It's fantastic. It's going to be a wonderful honor
There-
adjustment.
just back-
Yeah, Kristen, stop on those photos.
Controlling the-
6.
Go back one page to page
Yeah.
seven,
Yeah.
right there. There are
This
some
real
color
pictures, yeah.
photographs also,
Right.
not the schematics, but some actual color photos of dry board on the
Yeah.
right with
Yep.
Yep.
with a harness set up, trampoline to the left of it with a harness set up,
Mhm.
and then another dry board without a harness.
Mhm.
Daisy used to go to Tracy's backyard, to her trampoline.
Yes, I used to, that's where I worked with Maisie,
destinations we
in my backyard.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Anybody else have any further questions? Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is another gift.
It's an embarrassment of riches, really.
Yep. So Mark, can I just ask one question? Do we need to formally vote just that we're endorsing this project as a select board? I think it might
We
be
certainly
a
could.
good idea to do that.
Okay.
All right.
So I'd like to move that we endorse the BD Center addition project as presented tonight with a very large thank you to the whole team that's brought the project forward today. So thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, Delia.
Good evening. Delia Kay, Natural Resources Director for the town, and Richard Foreman.
Richard Foreman.
And I'd like to just introduce this gift and Richard. During COVID, Richard was the lead author on this trail book, Ecology Along Concord Trails, which is a very popular book that we sell in the Division of Natural Resources and at the Visitor Center. And I think this was a launching pad for Richard to write a new book on the ecology of Concord. And this is over 300 pages of the ecology of this town, and it's unique in that feature. Richard is a world-renowned landscape ecologist. He's the father of road ecology, longtime Concord resident and a dear friend. And he has authored this book and is interested in donating it to the town. I think there's so many benefits to this book. So I'm an ecologist, and I see it from that perspective. But in other ways, the value to the town, this is a book that will help in planning documents. So we have an open space and recreation plan that we do updates for. That's now every 10 years that we do those updates. A lot of the information that's in this book is very valuable to those updates. I think you're familiar with the open space and recreation plan update. The town also does a comprehensive long-range plan, which is a long-term planning document. And a lot of the information that is provided, that Richard has generated and put into a collated form in this book, will be used by the planning division and the planning board as they develop the next planning comprehensive long-range plan update. I think there are other departments, the Department of Public Works, which has the Water and Sewer Division, and other divisions within CPW will find a lot of value in the information that's provided in this book. And I'm going to I wanted to be brief and turn it over to Richard to talk a little bit more about this book.
Thank you. Good evening. Richard Foreman, 119 Elsinore Street. I'm pleasure to be here. I am going to take the liberty of passing copies of the book
good.
out.
Oh, yes.
So good.
Yes.
This is more revolutionary than you realize, because I've been working on it for 4 years. Wow. These are the first copies I've seen.
Oh, really?
This afternoon.
Really? That's impressive.
But they are dry.
Oh, here, no, we got one. Great.
Keep it coming.
There you go.
Wow.
I think go the other way.
I hope that's the right number.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, we're good. I understand they'll be for sale. No, I thought,
Delia can provide more inside.
Yeah.
So,
oh,
this is the first ecology book on Concord since Thoreau. basically. We used to donate it to the town, and I hope the town will accept it. This is to keep guardrails on a professor. So, a bit of background. In the 1960s, I came back from Central America and Wisconsin to the Northeast, where I'm from, and with my wife and 2 tots in the car, and 1903 canoe on top that my grandmother and grandfather took their honeymoon in on Lake Champlain. We went first to Concord, #1. We wanted to see New England. So Concord was #1, and the first night, she doesn't know this, first night we stayed in the ghost room.
oh, you did? And what was your,
Of course not. Why
You
spoil
found
the
it
fun?
And we escaped the ghost. But anyway, that was apropos, because many years later, my wife Barbara became the assistant director of the Orchard House and ran the old manse for 7 years, I think, and was educator for the Concord Museum for 25 years. So we've been here for a while, and we love the place, as you do. And I know that, because you wouldn't be here otherwise. So we went to Concord, and then we kept going. We ended up our trip, well, yeah. Let me say that we ended up our trip in Rangeley Lake in northwestern Maine. Some of you know the place. And, you know, on a young professor's salary, I was able to scrape up enough money to buy 300-foot frontage of choice land up there on the lake. That's $15 a front foot. That's good investment. Anyway, so that was our New England introduction at that phase. Then, during the 40 years we've lived here, I found this place an ecological treasure chest. I mean, I really did. It's quite remarkable. It's not unique, except in some of the anthropogenic aspects there, and the three rivers and Walden Pond and Estabrook Woods. Those are sort of unique treasures here. But in the decade 1995 to 2005, you know, I was kind of learning things, and so I'll volunteer for town reports. I can do that kind of stuff. So in that decade, I led or helped lead 4 reports, 2 open space plans for the town, and the Historic Resources Master Plan, which we sold downstairs for years there, and also a short version of it we sold downstairs. And also a small book on Millbrook flowing through time. During this time, I worked with a lot of impressive residents, I'll have to tell you that. Obviously, I had to work with people, and I worked with, and many of you know these people, but I have to mention Marion Thornton. I have to mention Gordon Shaw. I have to mention Joan Ferguson. I have to mention, you got it right, so I don't miss somebody. Sue Curtin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dan Monahan. And Polly Reeve. And Harry Byer. And more. These are people that you know, we worked for months together, each other, in different projects. And then, and COVID came along, Delia and I started working with Bob White on that little book she just shows you there, which is a nice little book. I'm getting near the end of my notes here, so don't get scared. Today's book, which is this handsome thing, oh, you have it there.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be up there or there or something.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That was printed here by Concord Printing. There. That's why I finally got it today.
Did books.
They did a good job. A
Yeah.
very nice job there. The early part spends a lot of time on geology and megafauna and archaeology and native peoples and water features and wildlife over time, things like that. One thing in there that I think people are going to find particularly interesting, I found it, is a 500-year record of climate here. Imagine that,
yeah,
500
that'll be
years.
good.
That's before our town, before
Yeah.
we were here, but the place was here. And then year by year, so a lot of them, Concord's history can be bounced off of, well, was it a severe drought or was it a severe wet period? Things like that, you know, the Revolution and the settlement times and the Second Division and Henry Thoreau and so forth. You can now start looking at those in terms of severe droughts and so prolonged droughts too. So the latter part of the book is more recent original work there by me, but by there are dozens of people, dozens of residents have contributed to this book. I've acknowledged all of them in the acknowledgements there. Some a lot, some not quite so much. it's a serious, comprehensive, readable, well-illustrated, pioneering, reasonably priced. It's not priced yet. but-
Yes.
Will be reasonable.
Yes, I like the
All
price.
all due respect, all
Yeah.
the hopes you, I encourage you on that. I had thought about, I would bring a joke. If you excuse
Yeah, that's right.
a diversion, years ago, one time I was presenting one of those reports. It was one of the open space reports, I think, to the select board. And it was a hot, sunny summer day, and it was down in, it was over there in Europe. Oh, it was, you know, the meeting went on and on. So I thought I'd start with a joke. And I said, we just finished a year and a half project in 4 years. Nobody laughed. I mean, dead silence. I mean, so, okay, no more jokes. So let me finish here. So hopefully the book will be available in 2 or 3 weeks at the office, the Natural Resources Office,
Yeah.
and in the Visitor Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've already gotten one request for another venue to diverse the book. So it's going to be a lot of interest. The result of this analysis here and centuries of work is that we now live in and have the best ecologically known town on earth. That sounds radical, and on the back cover, I said that, except I hedged it a little by saying most likely.
Okay.
But I can more or less, I can divide. I wrote a former book on towns around the world, and never found a book on the ecology of a town. Never found an article on the overall ecology of a town. Okay.
Okay.
Finally, thank you for your support and your service to this town. I've known a lot of select board members and so on over the years, and I always appreciate, even though I don't know you, I appreciate what you're doing. And I especially appreciate all protection of nature that you can give this town. Believe it or not, it needs it. And again, you can look at a quote on the back of that. You'll see more I say that. I think that you will find this a compelling book. I think numerous residents will also, and I think New Englanders in a broader sense are going to find this really interesting. So, I'm happy to try to answer any of your questions.
Well,
I'm sure Delia is too.
first, let me say thank you. It is really an honor to receive such a thing. It never ceases to amaze me, the depth of intellect that focuses itself on this town by choice. It's just amazing, and I'm sure that there's a lot that everyone can learn about our community from this effort. So we really appreciate it. It's really a remarkable gift.
It's a great asset also, I mean,
Yeah.
to the whole town. One quick question I have is that I know that we're going to try to sell this book, and it would be at the Visitor Center and then at the NRC. Do we know what the price is going to be? Because I think citizens listening are going to want to know.
We don't know how much.
You don't know yet?
We sort of targeted the realm of $35 to $40.
Okay.
Whether we make
Yep.
that or not, I don't know. But
Okay.
we should know in 10 days or.
Okay,
Once the rest of the books are back from the printer.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. 'Cause people will ask, that's why I'm just,
Right.
Oh, it's a
thank you.
bargain.
I was going to buy it. I was going to, I came, that was my question, where can I buy? So thank you.
Thank you.
It's great.
I just want to make an observation as an environmental guy. One of the most important natural resources
Yes.
are you. You are an important natural resource, and you've captured a lot of you in this book. So we've captured you as well as plants and animals in this book. It's really a gift to the town.
Yeah.
I'm a free spirit, it's hard to capture me, but I appreciate what you do.
Well, it may be flooding your way. It's in here, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Can't thank
All
you
right.
enough. What an amazing thing.
The motion.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to do it? Write the book?
About 4 years.
4 years.
In other words, we did this one, and we published that in 2021.
Yeah.
And then I've been working on it more or less.
In other words, it was a year-and-a-half
I
project.
was going to say, it was a year-and-a-half project.
That's awesome.
So this is an amazing gift. Do we
Yes.
need a motion?
We do.
I think we do. Okay. So I'd like to move to approve the book donation by Richard Foreman, valued at $30,000, which is the estimated production cost of 1,000 copies. So a big thank you from all of us and from the town.
Further questions or discussion?
Nope, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
I'm gonna stay for a little while.
Okay, election packet. Process
Hard.
changes.
Tough act to follow, Kari.
Indeed, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, I'm Kari Maitari, Town Clerk, and I'm here before you today to talk about draft procedures that you should have in your packet that have been reviewed by Town Council to clarify the process for preparing and distributing voter information mailings for special town elections. These procedures address key gaps that were identified during the special town meeting held in August and aim to ensure consistency, transparency, and compliance with state laws moving forward. The areas of improvement include outreach to proponents and opponents for written arguments, review of statements, and yes and no, the review of the ballot question summary and yes and no statements, and also final review of the ballot question prior to distribution, or ballot question mailing. So I can go through each step if you'd like, or if you'd like to just bring comments forward or questions, I'm happy to answer.
Let's go through the steps.
Yeah, let's
Step.
review the steps, and I'll give you my question right up front, because it'll help you, I think. The question that came to mind for me was, I couldn't recall exactly what is the sort of minimum time that we would normally execute from calling for a ballot to having an actual election, and if you could highlight how this fits into that, or if it forces us to lengthen that, that would be useful while you're going through that.
Actually, I put a little timeline together, if you don't mind taking one and sharing. Thank you. So 35 days is the minimum between when the select board forwards or calls the election and forwards the information to the town clerk, and when the election can be held.
Yep.
We also have vote by mail, which has its own deadlines. Voting by mail typically results in ballots being mailed out around 21 days before an election, and the deadline to apply for a vote by mail ballot is 7 days before an election. So they conflict a little
Yeah.
with this statute, but this is the statute that we have to
Okay.
work with. So step one is the ballot question approval.
So
Select-
sorry, I'm just looking at the time.
Yes.
So 35 days is the minimum time for,
That is the minimum time from when the election is called
yeah,
to election day.
okay. And then, so the timeline on the top is just maybe an example that's, so day 0, and then it's by day 7, and then there's another 7 days of outreach, and then it's 30 days. I was just adding up the days, it's more than 35, so I was just trying to follow it.
Some of the activities are happening concurrent to other activities. So
This
the-
isn't sequential.
So the,
Okay. So the summary and statement review is happening before you have received the solicitation of or before you've gotten the submission of arguments?
yeah, it's,
So it's kind of a parallel process? Okay,
yes.
great.
Yeah.
And then as we're walking through this, do we know what other towns do?
No, I don't know how many other towns have accepted the provision to have voter information mailed prior to an election. Concord accepted it in 2021, I think. I may be off on that, but,
So sorry, other towns have a vote and don't provide any information?
so unless you've accepted this local option, you are not allowed to send out using any town funds information about ballot questions to voters. You can post information, you can publish things in the paper, but you cannot
You can't
mail
send-
things
you can't
out
do a
to
pro or con.
voters.
Okay.
Correct.
But there are towns that do have a pro and con, but we don't know how they.
No,
They-
I don't.
So since we did accept that local option, does that require us to send out?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
It might be interesting to know how other towns
yeah, that's a really good point.
do it.
So, but the point of this update is that we had done this actually more than once before the election that was held this summer. And we, as a result of this most recent election, had some feedback about how we could have potentially done a little bit better. And so what Kari's done is essentially augmented the deadlines that are prescripted by the laws with some local procedures that are designed to give us an opportunity to, let's call it double check the information that's
Yeah.
being provided.
No, I think it's great. I'm glad we're doing it. So my questions are to, focus in on.
Yeah.
the
I
details.
think the multiple layers of review and feedback are really, I think,
Yeah.
important here.
Very
And I think you've laid out the time frame as well. I have a question. So the role of the select board on this,
Yeah.
is it the select board that mails the ballot? What's our responsibility? Do we mail the ballot question, or is it the town clerk that mails the ballot question? Because who
The
actually?
law says that the select board distribute the voter information to
Okay.
voters.
So on the letterhead, the select board office, that's appropriate.
That
but-
is why the
Got it,
select
got it.
board is on there.
Yeah. But it didn't actually, the law doesn't actually require us to look at that information before, so now this provides a
It's
mechanism
an
where we
opportunity.
we will.
This is
Good.
Right.
This is really
Yeah.
good.
It's you or the proponents or
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
whomever the procedures define as being the appropriate party. For instance, the proponents are going to change depending on what the ballot question is, but the select board should always be involved in review.
Mhm.
The arguments are such that you can make suggestions if there are issues of inaccuracies. Those can be addressed, but characterizations versus inaccuracies is a fine line that council reviews, and council has not had the opportunity to prepare criteria for choosing if there was more than one argument submitted, because it hasn't happened. So I did reach out to the state to see what they do for state ballot questions, but I have not gotten a
Heard back.
response.
So that
Yeah.
solicitation of arguments, which starts out, is that new, or has historically town council selected a person?
So it's in the law that town council will solicit arguments, and then there are examples of the groups that they may solicit from, but if we don't have a formal group, it becomes more challenging. So to address that, so then we look at town meeting, where proponents are opponents to questions or at public hearings, but at a minimum to have to solicit from at least two people as far as proponents, gives the opportunity to choose.
So can people just do it? So you're saying you can solicit. Can somebody just say, hey, I'd like to write something in and send it in, and you didn't ask me, but I'm giving it to you?
That would be up to town council.
Okay.
So much of this statute is driven by town council. And it's between town council and the proponents, but the arguments, when they're submitted, do need to be submitted to the town clerk's office as well as, to town council. And then they become public record.
And it's up to town council to consider and accept or reject feedback and so he has the final word on,
Right.
it's probably get,
Who has
So-
the final word?
Well, for arguments, the author has the final word.
But who has the final word as far as what will be in the mailing packet?
The arguments, so town council, if there are inaccuracies, town council will address that in as strong a manner as they can with the authors, but I think once the authors are chosen of the arguments, then it's working with the authors.
So the select board reviews it. Apparently, it looks here 30 days before the election, the select board would review it, but it really is town council that decides.
That's the summary. That's the
That's-
summary that
But what about
town
the
council
arguments? Okay, what
prepares.
about the
Right.
arguments?
The arguments, town council solicits, and that's in solicitation of arguments.
Yep.
Within 7 days of select board vote, town council has to have identified and reached out to the opponents and proponents. And then the authors have
7 days.
7 days
Right,
to
for
respond
submission,
to that.
right.
So that's a separate timeline from the summary and the yes and no statements.
Okay, when do we review the yes/no statements, or do we?
The pro-con,
So,
yeah.
so as soon as the yes/no statements from town council,
Yep.
those will be forwarded 30 days before the election. So as soon as possible, town council is going to prepare
Okay.
the summary and the yes/no statements.
Okay, so that's where it says 30 days. It's the summary
Yes.
and the statements, right?
Yes.
And then we can review them and give suggestions, but it really is town council's decision. Am I
Yes.
understanding this correctly?
Yes.
so on the arguments, it's the town
Right.
council's
Yes,
final decision, not the author's.
exactly.
No,
Not ours.
arguments are separate. The arguments are from the author.
Well, okay, let me give you an example. So there's factual information and there's tone.
Right.
There's tone. And some of us believe the last time there was a tonal problem. Would that be up to the author to adjust the tone or the town council?
There's nothing in the statute that allows town council to change something.
That's, yeah.
That if it's not factual, that is a completely different issue.
So the
But if it's a characterization of something, if it's interpretation of something, that is, there's nothing in the statute that allows council to do anything.
So the purpose of review is basically factual review only.
But the change here, though, is that whenever possible, town council is going to solicit arguments on each side from multiple people, and then that gives the town council an opportunity to choose between arguments, presumably on the basis of which argument they think is most logical or,
So
Other facts.
is that is that the only change
Is-
from our current process?
well,
That the
no.
solicit, or is
well,
there?
on the argument side, I think, am I getting that right?
Isn't
Yes.
that
Is
the
it-
heart of what we're
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, well, the other change here is the, and maybe we, on the summary and statements, 30 days before,
Right.
we're going to get an opportunity to review those
Right.
as a select board or the committee and board that sponsored the article and feedback to town council whether the summary and yes/no statement is accurate. Of course, that's
And,
supposed to be just a factual statement of what is the impact, what is the question designed to accomplish, and what is the impact of voting yes or voting no on that.
and we have 5 days to comment,
And we have 5 days, yeah.
so that's the
And
other piece.
Because 20 days before the election, the entire mailing has to be
Go out, right, yeah.
Yeah.
delivered to the
Yeah.
select board.
So
Okay,
we'll
But there is
presumably
time.
have to-
If I understand it, the two changes would be that we would get multiple arguments from the public, right?
Right.
Multiple,
Yeah.
and that we would have a chance to review these statements before they were mailed out and give feedback to
Right.
town council.
Right.
That's it?
Yeah, so we'll have to adjust our procedures accordingly, but yes.
Okay.
So the language for me on 3, the second bullet, doesn't quite, for me, it's, the way it reads, reaches out to individuals who are best positioned to present arguments in favor, and at least 2 who are best suited to present arguments in opposition.
Mhm.
Why is there a number on opposition and not on, it's
Well,
When you just
because,
reach out to both sides equally?
well, in favor, you're going to have the committee that presented the article at town meeting. So it will be, it's a much clearer process to get the pro statements, the pro argument.
Normally, there's an identifiable proponent of any ballot question that ends up on the ballot.
Because it
Because
starts
they-
at town meeting, so you've got the
Okay.
sponsor of the article.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense?
Did
Great.
we, yeah. Any further questions? Did we need a vote on this one?
Yeah.
Or we're just, I think
No,
we're just doing
no,
a discussion.
We're just reviewing it and
So
understanding
this is a
the change.
procedure?
There's a question
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah,
And-
you
yeah.
can, you can
Mhm.
vote to adopt this as a procedure, or you
Mhm.
can just, review it, and it can,
Sort of informational.
Uh,
procedures.
I'm seeing somebody approach the microphone with a question, so let's go with that.
So it looks like when you read the Mass General Law that you included in the packet, it does say that arguments and summaries shall be submitted by the solicitor or counsel to the governing body, that would be you guys, at least 20 days before the election
Yeah.
and before it's distributed to voters. But that wasn't done this last time.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
You guys you saw those arguments before they went out?
No,
No.
no,
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 No.
we didn't.
They weren't reviewed.
they weren't reviewed.
We,
Didn't see them either.
no, we didn't see them.
So you're saying that's in the law?
I mean, I'm just reading right off the paper that was in the
Yeah.
packet.
Okay.
It, yeah, the ballot question mailing was forwarded to the select board.
But the pro and con arguments weren't.
They were included.
They weren't forwarded to the select board before they went to voters.
They went to voters 20 days before the election.
Right, but this says it's supposed to go to them first. But that didn't happen. But it
Did-
went out under letter.
Didn't we see it like right at the same day as the mailing?
Yeah,
I think we saw it the same day that it was going out the door. There wasn't
I think
much
what-
advance.
What was unclear to us, in my recollection, was we got a copy, and I don't know the exact timing of that
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but it wasn't clear that it was for review or comment. It was, here's the
Right.
mailing that's going out that's
Right.
been prepared by council. So I think at least this board wasn't aware of the fact that we could have been or should have been reviewing. We thought this was a completed, here's the copy of what's about to go into the mail.
Well, we didn't have any time.
Yeah.
We didn't
And-
know.
And that's one of the reasons why I was asking the question about the minimum times, because it seems to me that one of the things that we may want to do if we're going to have this procedure is to make sure that we
Started sooner.
try to, given a choice between, calling an election in 35 days and calling one in 45 days or something like that, we're probably going to want to err on the 45-day side.
Yep.
I understand that there are going to be times, especially when we're up against the end of a fiscal year or something like that, where that may seem inconvenient. A lot of times, people don't want an election to happen in the first week of July, as opposed to, the second week or third week of June, as a for example. But so we'll have to navigate that when we're looking at the calendars for a proposed election, which is something that we also do in open meeting.
I'll just add one thing that I am a little bothered that there can't be more review of factual information, because I know in this last mailing, there was information that's either exaggerated or just misstated that it's demonstrably untrue. That was included in those con arguments. So I hope that there is a real effort that
Yeah.
will not happen again.
No, but I do know what Andrea's talking about, and I do actually think you could construe that as a fact that was incorrect. So that there's an opportunity for us, if that should arise, to comment on that. And I think that makes sense.
Tracy?
Hi, Tracy Morano, Chair of the Regional School Committee, speaking on behalf of myself. So just for clarification, what is the review process going to look like? Who's going to do the review? Will it be the Select Board, Town Council? town clerk, town manager, who's going to have eyes on that review process? Thanks.
Mhm.
It is in the meeting,
Yeah,
it's in the meeting packet,
yeah.
right.
So the review of the summary statements as indicated here is the select board and the committee or board that sponsored the warrant article would be the review of the summary. And then in the arguments, they would be forwarded, I guess not specifically for review, but obviously there's the opportunity to comment to the select board and the warrant article sponsor. And feedback submitted directly to town council. So that would be the opportunity, I think, for a sponsor or the select board office to identify problematic statements or call facts into question. So, you know, as an example, we understand there was an error in the cost information on the amenities building. That would presumably be picked up by the warrant article sponsor or the select board.
So,
Yeah.
I really appreciate, Kari, what you've done here as far as, giving us the timeline and being, being very careful and taking a good fiduciary responsibility, make sure we're following the law. But I still don't have a clear understanding of how do we prevent what happened this last election going forward. So I'm wondering if we could possibly maybe just have something written that addresses that, because there were two issues, I think, well, several. Who reviews it, and how do we make sure that the tone is appropriate and, conforms with the civility that the select board is a big proponent of, and how do we make sure that there aren't errors? And I'm right now, I'm feeling a little bit lost with all these, 35, and I'm thinking that probably voters are too. So I'm wondering if we could possibly have something written that just addresses that going.
Well, I'm interpreting the answer to your question, maybe it's not clear, is that by soliciting multiple arguments, town council isn't, would hopefully pick the right tone if there was incivility in something. So it's up to the town council.
Accuracy.
Yeah.
Well, that,
Both. I think both were issues.
cover the tone and accuracy, but it could be the town council misses some of the accuracy, and that would be picked up and reviewed by the sponsor and the select board. So
Right.
it may not be, I think it's covered here, but to your point, it may not be clear.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is clear.
I think that statement really needs to come from town council on how town council reviews the pro and con statements.
Okay.
I think it's important to keep in mind, we don't have to, we have to provide pro and con statements because the community chose to. We don't have to do that going forward. The community can choose to go back to what we were doing. And
But that has to go to town meeting?
that was a town meeting action,
So we would have
correct?
to reverse.
Yeah. We had two elections where this worked well, and we had this one where it worked very poorly. And what we have learned throughout the process is that town council makes the decision on the statement.
Yeah.
And so I think
To me, it seems that the important thing is to recognize what step of the process that we're in and make sure that the communications that say, here are the proposed either summary or yes, no, or arguments, and they need to be approved or they need to be reviewed within 4 days or 5 days or by a date certain with feedback to town council. So if those communications are clear about that,
Yep.
then we make sure that we complete each step in time to do our mailings on a timely basis. I think
Every
that's-
time we have one of these votes, Kari puts together a nice schedule, and we just have to be more attuned to it and know
Right.
that we have
and
5
recognize that
days.
we have a
And
role at certain
Right.
steps.
But the reality of this process comes back, and I don't know if there's a different way, because the reality comes back to, there's nothing that says town council has to get more than one
Mhm.
mention. There's nothing that, and they
Right.
can't actually change stuff unless it's a
Factual.
factual correction.
That's the challenge.
It comes to us, there's nothing we can say other than, hey, I kind of don't like this. Could you maybe go back and
Well,
say to somebody, well, I mean, we
unless-
don't have any authority.
Right.
Well, but if we think that something's been misrepresented, it may not
If
be
it's
factual.
factually incorrect.
Right,
Right.
and it's just not a number that's factual. It's a recording of history of like what did or didn't occur leading up to this vote, so.
Mary, you asked an interesting question.
Right.
What happened, a debriefing on why that happened before. Well, these steps were not in place, and what was in place didn't work.
Right, and I think that
Somebody made a couple of different errors.
the next time we're approving a calendar for a vote,
Right.
we should
Okay.
bake in
Right, that's what
Okay.
we
those
put more
checkpoint
time,
dates.
right.
Okay, maybe that
so that we
Right.
know during, whatever, between date X and Y, there's going to be a request to review the summary and the yes, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of voters do take these arguments seriously.
Yes.
And so
It's important.
I think it's important.
Yeah,
Right.
very
And I know we're
important.
belaboring it and everything, but I think it's
I think,
really,
Let's learn what other towns do. Maybe they have some
yeah.
suggestions.
There's also an opportunity, I think, to more clearly publicize, in those cases where there is no organized con, for
Yeah.
example,
Mhm.
there's the opportunity to publicize the need for, so we could take volunteers to make those statements, and that
Mhm.
might make sense. I think we mentioned that the state law, at least in my conversation with town council about this, the state law was basically built for these campaigns where there's a ballot question and there is an organized committee for and against. And so typically, these arguments are written by committees, not by a single individual.
okay.
Right.
And so I
Yeah.
don't see anything in this that suggests that behavior couldn't be encouraged here. If some group wanted to get together and say, sure, we'll take on writing an argument against, then why not accept that then as a way of hopefully creating a reasonable and thoughtful argument for why a particular ballot question should or should not be passed. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Kari.
Thank you,
Yes,
Cory.
thank you.
Right.
Nothing's easy.
Okay. Well,
Okay, tax relief
somehow
evaluation.
a lyric from a
Task
Steve
force.
Miller song came to mind. Time keeps on slipping. Anyway,
Yeah.
tax relief. I thought I saw Lynn.
Yes, Lynn's here, and
Yeah,
Ellen.
there
Yep,
she is. Oh, and Ellen.
of course, these are your co-chairs.
Yes.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Let me quickly share my screen. So I'm Lynn Salinger, 75 Pleasant Street in Concord, and with Ellen Quackenbush, we are the co-chairs of the Tax Relief Evaluation Task Force. Thanks for the opportunity to present to you a progress report, if you will, of the work that our 7-person team has done to date. A number of our members are also here this evening. So we began meeting in March, just after being formed, to implement your charge to us, a copy of which is in your packet, broadly to review the impacts over the last 2 years of implementation of the residential tax exemption policy. So to date, we've been doing a number of things. We've been collecting available secondary data. We've been reviewing other tax relief options available both in town as well as from the state. We've been conducting a series of semi-structured telephone interviews with a sample of folks around town. We've been reaching out to representatives from Brookline, Sudbury, Marlborough, Bedford, and Lexington to hear about their experiences, either implementing or considering implementation of the RTE, and speaking with a range of other knowledgeable folks, including from the Council on Aging, members of the former Tax Fairness Committee here in town, real estate agents, the assessor's office, all of which is helping us to frame an approach for answering a set of research questions. These include how accurate and efficient is the RTE? In other words, does it reach the intended beneficiaries that you wanted to see helped? When you wrote that you wanted to promote the economic diversity and allow seniors to remain living in Concord. So are those people, however we identify them, being helped? How have changes in property assessments contributed to perceptions of the RTE and support, or lack thereof, for the policy? How do various other tax relief options compare to the RTE? What have other communities' experiences been? And to what extent are housing costs, in particular property taxes, creating a financial burden for homeowners? And to what extent does that burden possibly figure in homeowners' deliberations about whether to stay or leave town? So by way of context, 20 cities and towns in the Commonwealth currently have adopted the RTE. Half of these are on the Cape and Islands, i.e. those are communities where a significant percentage of homeowners are owners of second homes and therefore are not eligible for the RTE, and thus a shift in property tax levy responsibility to those homeowners. I won't go through all of the math of the actual calculations here in Concord. You have a full set of slides in front of you. I will, however, note that the property tax rate as set last year by the assessor and by the select board was $13.26 per million of home evaluation with the RTE versus what would have been the tax rate without, $12.39. And so the tax rate actually was increased by 7% in order to still collect the needed levy, total levy, given the exemption amount. That said, Concord's with RTE tax rate is still sitting, I would say, among the rates found in our neighboring towns. So I'd like to highlight a couple of our early findings for you.
Sure.
And I draw your attention to slide 8 in the presentation, which shows the uptake rate of the RTE by eligible homeowners in town. And you'll see that in the middle of the distribution, the uptake rate is reasonably standard, somewhere between 68 and 73%, whereas the uptake rate tails off on both sides of the home value distribution, in particular on the higher end of the distribution, on the right-hand side, for reasons that are as yet unclear. I would also point out that the effect of the RTE is to shift the burden of property tax payments for homeowners of properties valued below what is called the break-even point, which last year in Concord was $2.3 million. There's a savings in the tax bill, and you can see for different home value amounts the amount of reduction in the tax bill due to implementation of the RTE, whereas on the higher end of the distribution, homes valued above the 2.3 million break-even point, you see an increase. So for the lower end or the less valued properties, you see as much as a 14 to 24% savings in the total property tax bill, whereas on the high end, you might see a 3 or 4% increase in the property tax bill. So of course, there are a number of factors that affect our taxes. And the way we've framed it here is that there was a perfect storm of 3 independent changes that happened in the last assessment period. First, obviously, assessment values differ quite a bit across houses, and depending on the neighborhood and the house type, the increase in assessment value over the last 3 years may have been higher or lower. And what you see in this slide is that for homes, for example, in the $3 million range, their assessment over 3 years actually went up by 47%, whereas for lower valued homes, the increase in the assessment was below 40%. So assessment increases hit differently depending on the value of your home. Second of all, property taxes rise, of course, because spending goes up, spending for town and school services, but also spending on debt service. And in this time frame, the new debt service for the new middle school also came online. And then third, the RTE was implemented in this period, and as we've just said, that also caused a shift in some of the responsibility of payment. So other findings of note to date are the following. We've done these reviews interviews with a fairly limited sample to date, but what we're finding is a very limited understanding by residents in town of what the RTE is and who is eligible for it. And also a wide range of opinion about the policy. So we intend to continue those qualitative interviews going through the fall and into early next year, particularly focusing on landlords and renters for reasons I'll explain in a moment, in order to broaden our understanding from multiple points of view of how the RTE is being perceived. Another observation from the Council on Aging, we know that for those who bought their homes decades ago and who are currently living on low fixed incomes, the RTE represents a significant factor in allowing them to stay in town. And we've heard from folks at the COA about how important RTE has been. I would say that in addition to the RTE, targeted assistance is available in town from two things. One is the senior means tested exemption that was passed by town meeting almost a decade ago now, as well as tax relief grants from the Hugh Cargill Trust. So there are other options in addition to the RTE that are helping the neediest in our community. Finally, another interesting fact that we've uncovered is from the 2022 Housing Production Plan, 28% of housing units in Concord are renters, not homeowners. And in fact, renters don't benefit at all from the RTE. If anything, most landlords' property tax bills probably rose when the RTE was implemented because they were not eligible. If that is not their primary residence, they are not eligible for the residential tax exemption. So the task force is seeking data to assess whether the RTE is actually effective in helping low-income primary homeowners. But we're also interested in two additional questions. To what extent does the RTE miss some low-income residents who live in above break-even point valued homes, in other words, in homes valued above the 2.3 million? And also, to what extent does the RTE possibly benefit higher income homeowners who live in below break-even value homes? And in order to try to get a handle on those questions, we're pursuing data from two paths. One, we have a subgroup who are collecting data from the Census Bureau's American Community Survey on housing costs, home values, income, and demographics from Concord as well as from a collection of neighboring towns. And we are also about to implement a townwide anonymous survey that will ask homeowners and renters to talk to us about housing cost financial burden and the extent to which property taxes are part of that burden. The draft of the survey and a mock-up of the postcard that's going to be sent to all residents in Concord are being finalized right now. We hope to launch this at the end of October, with the survey to be completed by townspeople up till Christmas, and we will come back to you with analysis and a final report in early 2026. Outreach is planned by the task force in a number of ways via the First Friday program of the League of Women Voters in early November, via the Concord Bridge, via Council on Aging lunches, and other possible avenues. So that's a very quick summary. I tried to stay to my 10 minutes. And
To add one thing, one of the things that's really important to know is there's no place that we can get both assessed value and income for residents, their primary homes, anywhere. We can get average value from the American Community Surveys, we get tons of detail from the assessors on assessment. What we really need to do to fill out this 4x4 grid you just looked at is to know that for every house, and that's the reason for the survey and the attempt to really widely motivate people to fill that
That's right.
So you're hoping the survey, people will reveal their incomes?
It's self-reported, but we're asking their income and they're asking.
Ranges of
Ranges,
incomes and
right.
ranges of home values.
Okay.
And
good.
others, the attitudes toward the RTE and their
Right.
experience with the RTE.
And again, anonymous, so that people, don't worry about their privacy being, hopefully, being
Right.
intruded upon.
I have two questions about
Yes.
the path forward. It is factual that renters don't benefit from RTE, but
Yes.
RTE was
Yeah.
not aimed at benefiting renters. Is part of your charge to look at means of benefiting renters other than the RTE?
Yes, and there is a statutory provision that was passed a number of years ago, Section 50 in the Mass General Laws, that allows landlords who are renting at affordable rental rates to also receive a residential tax exemption. To date, no community in the Commonwealth has implemented this. Our understanding from talking with Brookline and with other contacts is that the city of Boston, in fact, adopted Section 50, but has not yet implemented. So Brookline said to us, until they see the implementing regs, for how will that work? How will landlords collect income information from their tenants? How will the assessor's office then validate those requests? We haven't yet seen how that will be implemented, but we are considering.
A second question. Do you have an opinion, or have you looked at whether 10% is the right number and the impact of?
It's certainly one of the things that we will be looking
sensitivity?
at.
What would that do to the whole terrain of the RTE if that increase? Or?
It doesn't change the break even. It's always going to be 2.3 million. That's based on just the district.
It's just going to be a slope.
But it does change the amount that is
changes
shown,
the slope, right?
Low income.
Yeah.
Right.
or from lower valued homes to higher
Right.
valued homes.
Right. Yeah, it goes.
Which,
I have two questions. You mentioned you mentioned other tax relief programs that we have in town, and one was the senior means tested that we have here that has very low participation because of the asset limit, right?
Correct.
And you mentioned that Bedford, I think, has implemented the 41C&a-half,
they
which
have. They just adopted it by vote earlier this
they
year.
just adopted it. Okay, because I'd be curious to see what kind of relief that gave to seniors. What does that do as far as, do you know what the asset limit is under that particular?
There's no asset
There's
limit.
none.
There's no asset limit,
Correct.
okay.
And Concord's asset limit was originally set at 250,000.
Yep.
Now it's up to 275.
Yeah, see, that eliminates.
It's very
yeah.
low, given that many people, I should say most, have retirement accounts that provide income in future years, and
Exactly. So I
therefore,
think last year, 34 people got the
40.
senior means tested.
40,
So I
yeah.
had high hopes for this 41C&a-half, being able to target seniors.
right.
Right, but give relief to people who, like you said, had
So I
retirement.
have
Asset
looked,
levels, our choice.
yes, it is.
Right.
It is.
Yes,
Select
we-
board
Yes, it
can-
is.
can
Yeah,
change
no,
that.
I'm saying
Yeah.
there's an opportunity
Yeah.
to change.
That's right.
But,
And
There are other communities in the state that have implemented home rule petitions similar to ours, who
Yep.
have their own senior means tested exemptions. And I'm going to forget which community is, Brookline or Carlisle? One of them has a 750K.
Yeah.
That was the highest
Okay.
asset limit I found in other
Okay.
communities.
And then-
There
that would
may
be a whole
others.
other analysis, though, to find out how many people you benefited if you raised that asset limit.
Well, hard to find out because we're not asking people, we're asking incomes, but we're not asking assets.
Okay.
Right.
Why not?
I've got one more question.
Well, that's
So,
an interesting
Lynn,
question.
can you just follow up, the Tax Fairness Committee, they had a recommendation when we implemented the senior on that
So in
asset
speaking to the
limit.
former
Can you
chair,
just,
they proposed that it be raised 25K each year
Yep.
in order to, keep it up to date, and that was not done. It kind of
Yeah,
lost
I don't, was it 10
visibility.
years ago? That was-
Right.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a big benefit, in my
I mean,
opinion. It wouldn't have been.
Obviously,
yeah.
you all could, or the
Right.
Yeah.
future
So,
select boards
I've got one
could
more
change that.
question. You mentioned earlier that you wanted to answer the question, how much do taxes impact the decision to stay in town?
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to suss out from that taxes what the RTE impact was versus increases in spending versus increase in appraised values? Or was it just taxes in general? How much do
The
taxes?
survey.
assessor actually did an analysis of that,
Yep,
and the RTE was a small
small portion of it, but it's in one of the classification hearings, I believe,
Okay.
in terms of what the impact was.
And in
So-
our survey draft, I don't think we,
That was your
Ask
question
about
about
the
was it about
RTE.
the survey?
We,
Mary?
No. No, I'm wondering, when you said you were trying to figure out how much do taxes impact the decision to stay in
we were
town
going to ask a question about what are your top 3 reasons
in the survey?
that
In
you
the s-
might
right.
are
Got it.
considering
Okay.
moving, and then if you're considering moving them in the next 5 years, what are the top 3 reasons?
Thank you.
Then
So-
taxes is one,
and taxes is one, but the RTE is
But you're not separating out the RTE,
No.
it's just taxes, which
Yes.
could be
They
impacted.
don't necessarily think, they think about taxes, but not necessarily separate
And-
out the RTE.
Lynn, maybe you could comment on the real estate agent's comments,
Well,
if that makes any reference. Oh, yeah, well, you can.
so we have spoken to a handful of real estate agents in town, and they've confirmed that the RTE does not figure in their discussions with prospective buyers. Taxes do in general, but the RTE does typically not come up in conversation. The other, I thought, interesting observation as we talk to people is, for many, folks are paying a fixed payment through their escrow accounts. They pay mortgage, insurance, and taxes together. And many people told us they don't really know what their taxes
see
are
it.
or
They
how
don't
much
see
the
it.
taxes
Yeah.
are going up. So that, I thought, was interesting.
So why would we not ask about assets?
And that's,
Yeah, we're asking, maybe it's whether people, one is a question of the difference between if you have an IRA versus if you have,
savings,
yeah, savings.
post-tax
So
savings.
we could ask, but we're already asking a lot of information that's relatively sensitive, we haven't considered that.
And this is about housing costs, too, is a stressor, right? So you're really digging a little on their expenses and their pressures, and I think asking about assets probably people wouldn't answer the survey, but
Yeah,
that's
some
Yeah, I
sensitive.
mean, it just
Don't
goes
know.
back.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think
You
it
don't
goes
know,
back to the
right.
fundamental premise, which you mentioned at the beginning, taxes that are accurate and efficient, right?
Mhm.
So I would sort of challenge the committee to come up with anything that suggests that the RTE is accurate and efficient.
Well, when you can look at, you can ask 2 questions. One, what percentage of low income, which has to be defined, does it benefit? Which really means how many people who we consider low income are above the, above the break even, so they don't get a benefit. Versus what's the spillover of people who live in houses below the break even, they've downsized, they're living on the range. We'll get that information, so we'll be able to do kind of efficiency from that point of view. Is it targeted, is it reach the people we want, and then what's the spillover? Which are both, I think, important questions, we think are important.
So, thank you for the work that you're doing, that you've done, that you're gonna do going forward. I think it's important topic. I just picking up on some of the comments that you made, so I just wanted to maybe make either a couple of comments or questions related to that. So you did mention 20 towns that have the RTE, 50% are Cape and Islands. So from what I've seen, every other community other than Concord that is not on the Cape and Islands has a much higher percentage of rental in their community and has a much closer level of income between the renters and the owners. And actually, explicitly, the state of Massachusetts, when they implemented the RTE, said the 2 reasons why we're doing it is 1 for sort of vacation area second homeowners, and 2 for communities that have high rental capacity and very close incomes between renters and homeowners. You did mention the sort of the tax rates for Concord. I just, from my data, that we do have, we had the 4th highest. We slipped right behind Wellesley this year, so I think we're the 5th highest single-family homeowner property tax payers in the state. We do have the 20th highest property values, so I think there is a bit of a
You're
disparity.
talking
between-
tax bill or tax
In
rate?
terms of the tax bill, yeah, in terms of the dollars of what we pay. And just, I think it's also important to note for people that over the last 20 years in Concord, single-family homes have increased at less than the rate of inflation. So, the idea that homes have become unaffordable in Concord, if you look at Concord relative to inflation, if you look at Concord relative to other towns in surrounding communities, that the value of those single-family homes has actually been a lower increase. So just some other, things to maybe consider as you're going through some of this work, so, thanks.
Anything else from the board? We'll take
Do you
it.
know how it's
Oh.
tracked to incomes? values of homes tracking to incomes in Concord?
How does value of home track to income?
Yeah,
Not off the top of my head.
yeah,
I mean,
I
there
think
is-
it's, in-
there
I
is
think
data.
that's actually in
There
the
is
house.
data. The income data tends
There
to
is
fluctuate
income.
a lot, sort of year by year, but there is data. I don't know how it compares.
Yeah, in the housing production plan, they do have tracked that, but it's a short window of time. So, you know, we've got to be careful how we interpret that, but they have looked at that as far as
Income versus assets?
value of homes.
And that's
The
what,
median value of homes relative to the increase in incomes.
and the task force is actually touching base with
Yeah,
the
I'm sure
housing
you've
production
looked at-
plan with Rich's help,
Sure
so,
you've looked at that, so.
yep.
I'll take a comment.
Mike Phillips, 176 Partridge Lane.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, in the work that you guys are doing, how many people actually understand what the RTA is, how it works? You know, when you're asking opinions on it and just what they think, the relative to taxes. I ask just because I know very few people who actually understand what it is. So when you're talking to seniors, whether it benefits them, whether it doesn't, I mean, if the conversation is, do you want money, do you not want money, I get that, but my, my question is, it's a very complicated thing for most folks, so, you know, as you do your work and how is it impacting your work, like, how is people understanding what it is?
Well, that's why I said there's very limited understanding of what it is and who's eligible, which, you know, certainly affects the uptake rate across households. I would say that for seniors who seek advice from the Council on Aging, they understand perhaps better than others because they're actually being helped to apply and they see the benefit. But
I
for
mean,
many
everyone
townspeople,
should apply if it's your primary residence. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what
that is
people
correct.
don't necessarily understand, whether you live in a $20 million home or a $500,000
You're
home.
right.
And they don't understand how it's how the wealth exchange is going back and forth. So, you know, my challenge, my struggle is how do people judge whether this is a good thing or a bad thing for them, fair, unfair for the town, if most don't even know how it works.
so the survey,
It's always good.
Well-
It's always good.
Just got a message that
It's always good. It will always benefit you if you're the owner of your house. So your question
Yeah,
is,
but it's not understood.
let Lynn answer.
The survey that we're.
It's always good
If
to
you-
apply for it.
It's always good to apply
We can debate whether it benefits you, you know, the program in itself
Okay.
benefits you, but I understand.
It is always good to
should
apply.
always apply. People
So
should
what we're
always
trying to do in the survey is not to determine how well people understand it, but by gathering information, how it might impact various cohorts in the town. So it's a matter of fairness. We all know that it's not well understood.
I think that even if it isn't well understood, though, the evidence that we have from the assessor is that in most people that were eligible actually applied because we have, 53. I mean, yes, at the very high end, which is a small number of properties and might be subject to some, when your property is over 4 or 5 million, you may have other circumstances that make it not a residential or something like that. But generally speaking, we've got, except for in those two very highest brackets, more than 50%, and in the middle brackets, which are the highest frequency, we've got, high 60s to 70% just in the second year of people who have actually gone ahead and applied. So I think there's clearly work to do to get those numbers as high as possible. They'll never reach 100% because people may have ownership situations that preclude them from actually, that this is a granted number, not an applied number, so there may be some people.
66% of people overall
Yeah.
were granted the RTE.
Right.
So it is an issue of education. That's one of the reasons we're
Yeah.
doing the first Friday,
Right.
is to increase the understanding in town.
end of October, end of this
Yeah.
month.
And we'll be, I just wanted to note that we will be holding the tax rate hearing this year on the November 17th meeting, and I'll take a question from Christine.
Thank you. Chris Reynolds, Captain Miles Lane. One of the things that surprised me when this happened, and I understand it's allowable under the law, is it's such an important change in the way property taxes are assessed, was done without big community understanding, the way we would have something at town meeting. So I was always surprised that this was not something that was subject to town meeting. So that's one of the things I would suggest you add. Would people like a vote
In fact, the statutory options do require discussion at town
Town
meeting
meeting,
and a
yeah.
vote.
You're right.
And this was the one option, according to the research we've done, that has not required that. That could be approved
No, I
by the
understand.
select
For
board.
clarification, you mean like if we were to change the asset level on
Mm.
the senior exemption? You're saying like the statutory?
I can't answer that definitively. That was set
Some of
by the
those
select
might
board.
require-
But if you were to adopt 41C and a half instead of the senior means tested
Yeah, yeah.
exemption, that would have to go to
Requires
town
it,
meeting
right. Yeah.
and be voted on.
Right,
And-
okay.
And thus, there would be more discussion. Yeah.
I think it would be good.
In terms of understanding of the RTE, I would just add that the task force is putting together a one-page explainer of what the RTE is. And so for people, once they've completed the survey, there will be a link that they can click on in order to learn more about it. We're actually trying to find out how well people think they understand it as they fill it out, and then we offer more information at the end.
Great, thank you,
Okay,
really.
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Well, thank you to the whole team. This is an enormously complex task, and I'll also just compliment the whole team because it's a very diverse group of people, and they're very good at challenging one another very respectfully, but it's a lot of hard work, so thank you for the work that you're doing and that will continue to go on,
Yeah.
so it's great.
Okay. Moving along,
What's next?
the discussion and vote on the Bias and Hate Incident Working Group appointment and nominations. We're going to take this in a couple of sections. What I thought we'd do first is select the Select Board representative to this group. If you recall the charge, which I don't have in front of me at the moment, but we do.
Yep.
Thank you.
I do.
We do have a Select Board representative along with
No, it's the wrong one.
seven.
I have.
That's
You
the,
do
that's
have
the
a select
RTE
board.
one. Yeah,
Do you need it?
thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We have a Select Board representative, and then we have a school committee representative that
Yeah.
has not been named yet, and a DEI commission representative that we already
Pointed.
appointed earlier in this meeting, who was nominated last. And so we're looking at the at-large membership after that, and then we'll just have a discussion about the progress and any updates after that. And there are some candidates. So,
So, sorry, but procedurally, we're going to talk about who's the select board.
Right.
person first,
Right.
yeah.
And then,
And then we're going to discuss
Yes.
the at-large representatives.
in the same meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because, so what we're aiming to do is we've received 6 volunteer cards for people that have expressed an interest. And so we're going to see whether we can reach a consensus on nominating 2 of them to be the at-large reps. And then once even if we don't get to that, but assuming that we make some progress on that, then we're going to discuss whether there's any other items related to the working group, whether whether we've got any more thinking about the charge, or just the general status of the hate and bias work at the moment. So we thought we'd just close with that, because as we've discussed in every meeting this fall, we're talking about this all the time.
Can I
Okay.
mention some late-breaking news?
Sure.
There's a staff position, and our town manager, Kerry LaFleur, has volunteered to be on that, be the staff
Excellent.
person,
So,
non-voting.
Yeah, that's right. There is a staff liaison.
Very good.
so can I start the conversation? It
Sure.
might seem completely obvious, but I would like to nominate Mr. Bohm as our select board representative on this committee.
Okay,
I'm interested in also serving.
okay. Any comments from you?
No.
No?
I'd
Okay.
like to hear from both of the,
Yeah, why don't we go with, if you're both interested, and I assume you are, how about a statement?
Can I go first?
Go ahead.
I think Cameron should do it. No.
There you go.
As I mentioned at the last meeting, I'm open to supporting or leading, but I think from the get-go of this, when was it, June 30th, was my first meeting, I think this became a priority for me in terms of figuring out what the select board could do to help the community, and we arrived with, I think, a bit of my leadership to come up with those two tracks of the community and the reporting, and I've worked hard on developing the charge, getting input from you guys, so I'm prepared to lead that, have the interest to lead that, have the personal knowledge and energy to lead it. So I have a stake in the game, whether it's me leading it or somebody else leading it. I'm going to be involved. So.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, so thanks, Paul. I mean, listen, I think it's an important issue to you, I know. So from my perspective, I think this is a really important issue for the town. I think we need to look broadly at all of the different types of reporting mechanisms that exist today, of which there are multiple. I think we need to consider sort of strongly, what any additional thing would accomplish. I think it's just important that we really have kind of broad representation on this committee. And I think, Paul, you're already on the sort of DEI commission, right? Which I guess some would say, oh, that's great, you're already there.
I'm not on the DI.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you're the liaison.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, what I'm saying is, hey, that's great, there's synchronization across that. I also think it's good to have some, different voices and a variety of different voices, that are involved in things like this. So for me, it's something that I'm sort of really interested in seeing how something like this would work or could work, but also looking at it through kind of the broad lens of what it would be intended to accomplish, and both sort of the pros and cons, right, of what something like this might entail, because I think that there's a lot of careful consideration around some, potentially negative effects, right, that can happen if these things aren't tackled the right way.
I appreciate you both being willing to take this on. It is a, high impact, high visibility assignment, and it is, to my knowledge, somewhat unprecedented in terms of what we're asking this group to accomplish. I do think that there is a relationship between the work that's going to be done by this working group and the work that's been started by the DEI Commission, and I think that linkage is quite helpful for this. I think that there certainly is a very keen interest in getting this going quickly. So I know quick is not a word that's often, applied to the way we solve problems in the municipal space, and to some extent that's actually good, because I think that it also needs to be deliberate. I think it's important that there be an orientation towards coming up with some unique solutions to this, that I am quite convinced that there's nobody out there with the answer, and I've made this comment before. I think this is one of those places where, as a community, we need to find a way to lead.
If I can just, as an advisor or select board member,
Yeah.
this is a process. It's not, if we could use somebody's system, we would grab it off the table.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of questions. The more I talk to people, a lot of questions up front
Mhm.
that we have to ask to make sure that this works for us. And a whole series of those. And so we need to have people on the committee that will ask those questions.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's really important.
I mean, ideally, the key thing here is to try to broaden the awareness of what is in fact happening in our community. And, finding a way to have a trusted source of information about what incidents are occurring and categorizing those incidents is very much a part of this effort. And I'm wondering if either of you has any thoughts on how to proceed in those directions.
Well, I mean, listen, I think it's a challenging and probably longer discussion, right, around everything that you just said, Mark, right? Because categorizing incidents is, something that, okay, what are the systems that we have today, and are we able to categorize those incidents with what we have, or what is sort of the gap, right? You also have to be careful. My personal opinion is you have to be careful, because from what was described in some of the previous meetings, hey, this isn't something that violates the law. This is just someone's opinion that you're sort of behaving badly. And I'm going to send someone to your house to tell you how you behaved badly and what you need to do differently, is not really sort of, to me, that's a challenging circumstance, right? That's a challenging situation. And that has a lot of potential negative repercussions. So I think it's something that has to be thought through very carefully, because putting in place things like this, while they all may have the best of intentions as to what we're trying to accomplish, there's also repercussions to some of those things that we have to also consider.
Well, I think defining what an incident is, and the range of incidents, and I classify these from 1 to 10. So we know what 10 is, right? The police get involved. We don't quite know what 1 is, and we don't quite know where an action is needed. Okay, it may be a 4 or 5, and we don't even know what that action is. So we have to discuss what that is. But I think that we need to know the range of things that are happening in town so we can kind of measure our progress. And whether it's, I'm not saying the minor incidents probably don't require any action, but they do require us to know that they're happening. And so I think that's part of the challenge of this group, defining the range of incidents. What do we do with the information? Before we get to actually the database and the structure of it, what are we going to do with it? How does that inform the community? What's the communication path of this information? The mechanics, how does the town administer this? And there's just a lot of pieces. And to your earlier point, of course, there are 4 or 5 or 6 existing pieces of this system out there. And we need to mine those and figure out, can we put those together, or do we need something new?
Yeah.
So, and that's why this is going to take, when I first put together the charge, I had December 31st. Well, that's not going to happen. But I'm saying we ought to be able to accomplish this in probably 6 months.
Yeah.
I would hope. So at the end of the first quarter, we should probably have a report back to the select board. Because I think we have to move quickly, but deliberately.
I do think it's important to think about the problem that we're trying to solve, right? Because the problem we're ultimately trying to solve is if there are things going on that are, bad, let's just call it, without defining all the different things that are, are sort of incidents, we would like to have less of that in the town, right? We want to, the problem we're trying to solve is how do we sort of, eliminate negative sort of incidents. But also, how do we do that in a way that sort of is appropriate and is, as far as people's rights are concerned, as far as, not having sort of negative implications to, because when you start to say like, well, we need to know what's going on, we need to know how people are behaving, I gotta be honest, you can Google that starts to talk about like, hey, here's how communist countries, ran their, hey, we're gonna encourage you to report on your neighbor, because we are the sort of behavior police, and we want to figure out how to, who's behaving badly and how we're going to change it. So it's just the goal. I think we're all aligned, right, on what the goal is we want to figure out how we can, address and reduce eliminate these incidents. How do we do that in a responsible way?
Well, I'm going to assume there's a thoughtfulness that goes into designing this, but we are not going to solve the problem. we are going to help. You know, I mentioned this at the league meeting, that, you know, 3 parts of the problem. There's the leadership part, then there's the individual part, what we as individuals can do, and then what the community can do. And those are 3 pieces. We are not, the community is going to solve the problem, but they have to understand what the problem is. And I think we have a better understanding of what the problem is at the schools, because, you know, of the ADL complaint and other things, but we don't have an idea, really full idea, or maybe an idea what's happening in the town, because we haven't collected information. So eventually we need to put together the town information with the school information, because we're part of the whole community, but I think that's another step.
Okay. Any other questions for either one?
No,
I have a question about anything that gets proposed would have to come to the select board for approval.
Yeah, the charge is to come with a recommendation on reporting. It's not
Yeah.
the whole system. It's the reporting tool that could be used to then take action.
Okay, so, yeah, because I do share a little bit of Cameron's concerns about, you know, overstepping individual rights. And I think that is something we can be cognizant of when we're reviewing what's being recommended to us. It's not the commission that's going to be doing that. And I don't think the commission will decide what actions are taken in response to different actions. It's not going to be, I mean, to your point earlier that we'd have people going to your house, that's not.
I think it's beyond the scope of this group to define what the actions are.
Yeah.
We may define when we think an action is appropriate, but not what it is. And I think it's incumbent upon the group to understand what free speech is versus what bias and hate is. And, you know, and there's a gray area between, and we need to discuss that. So we're not tramping on free speech rights, but also we're not underplaying bias and hate. And, you know, there's overlap that we could talk for an hour about. But
It seems to me that what the overarching goal here is, if we go back to what people in our community have been telling us when they come before us in this meeting and others, and discuss their experience, they're really, you know, they tend to be relating personal experience that was an experience of harm to themselves. So I'm not as worried about people sort of, you know, spying or turning in their, you know, others on. I think that what our challenge is certainly what I was hearing was people expressing the fact that these things are occurring to them and that they don't have a way to bring those to the attention of whether it's administrative authorities or municipal authorities or even whoever it is that is actually creating some level of suffering for them, and get some mediation for that. And so I think what we're trying to do here is find a way to create an opportunity for there to be some examination of what occurred, examination of the impact that occurrence, that incident has had on a resident or even someone visiting our community or working here, and then trying to see what is it that can enable less of that harm. And that last part is a piece that I believe is to be built once we have developed a better awareness or a better set of recognition of what those things are, because right now we just have such an incredible level of underreporting that we don't even know, and it's, you know, to my way of thinking, possible for people to be walking around not realizing the extent to which this is part of members of our community's everyday experience. And I think that's what we're trying to elevate here, long before we start, you know,
Solutions.
trying to
or responses.
Yeah. So, having had that discussion, I think it's good for us to be grounded in what we're doing. Is everyone prepared to cast a vote? I'm going to suggest that what we do is, since we have two candidates, we either vote for Paul or vote for Cameron and see where we land. Is that, okay? Paul, will you vote for yourself?
I'm going to vote for Paul.
Paul?
You said you were going to vote for Cameron. You changed your mind?
Vote for me.
Okay. All right.
I'll vote for Paul.
I already nominated Paul. Right.
And I'll vote for Paul as well. Thank you. Okay. Moving on.
At large.
So is that a formal nomination that we would
nomination.
like to make motion? So
so-
let me make, well, I made the motion
Why don't you-
already.
Okay, you moved the
I
nomination?
did make the motion.
Second.
Okay. And all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Great. So now we
So the
come
next-
to the
next
matter.
The appointment is the next.
The next meeting.
Yeah, so that'll,
Oh, I thought he was,
well,
No, this is a nomination.
realistically,
right?
the group's not seated until we can
They
go
all have
ahead
to
and.
get appointed.
What?
They all have to get nominated and then
And then
appointed, right?
appointed, so
But so.
no, I thought
having-
because he's a member of the select board.
he's a member of the select board, so we could just appoint him.
Oh.
Okay.
yeah.
But having gone through that then,
Yeah.
are we nominating somebody? I mean, I would think
Well-
that we would nominate people for the next meeting.
Yeah, so.
Nominate the community.
So we have
The at-large people?
We have 6 volunteer cards that we've received, and we've had an opportunity to review that material. And then, so now the question would be, can we settle on 2 of these people who we want to thank in advance for volunteering? Because this is
What?
a lot. To be the nominees that we would then appoint at our next meeting. Is that clear?
So,
Yeah.
It is, I guess. I mean, if we're prepared to do that, I'd like to.
Well, I think we should have a
understand
discussion.
everybody's-
We may
Yeah,
not be
that
prepared
we
to vote.
we can discuss whether we're ready there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I kick it
Paul,
off?
please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there are 6 community members that volunteered. On behalf of the select board, I want, as Mark mentioned, I want to thank them all. The candidates for these 2 positions are all very strong. If we could have 6 community members, that would be great. But they present different variety of backgrounds, experience, and interests that complement the members in the select board and the DI commission, hopefully in the school committee. But we have to choose and appoint 2 members tonight. And if we all agree on the 2, our job is done. If not, well, let's see where it goes. I just
So
want to,
sorry, Paul, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Just remind me, so there's 5, there's going to be 5 members of the committee overall?
there's 5 voting members, select board member, DI commission appointee, school committee appointee, and 2 community at-large members who we're going to be
Okay.
discussing.
So the select board role is a voting role, it's not a
Yeah.
liaison
Right.
role? It's on the
Correct.
committee.
Yeah, they're on the committee. And then the liaison is Carrie. And there'll be a staff support as well that we can discuss later. I just want to name who they are in alphabetical order. Jennifer Bell of 38 Edgewood Road, Deborah Dorfman of 27 Lang Street, Daniel Hart of 61 West Street, Rob Morrison of 63 Monument Street, and Linda Skolnick of 376 Katarina Heights, and Rob Sones of 40 Martha's Point Road.
I think
so-
it's
Rob or Bill?
Bill.
It's Bill, right? Bill Sones?
Is it Bill?
Yes.
I think it's
Oh,
Bill.
sorry,
yeah.
that's right. Sorry, Bill. So I spoke with all the candidates individually. I'm not sure who did. In addition to their information, based on the information provided, and especially my conversations with them, I want to recommend that we appoint Daniel Hart and Deborah Dorfman. Let me explain why. I think others, and we received some community emails to the select board on a couple of these individuals. I think I found that their knowledge of the goals of the work group efforts and the individual contributions to the conversations that shed light on bias and hate in general and anti-Semitism in particular, they are reliably reasoned and thoughtful, and they look at ways to provide the town with a system to measure the progress, to inform the community. Specifically, Deborah's an attorney with experience. Deborah has been at several of these meetings and have
Yes,
offered
yes.
her opinions on data collection. She's an experienced attorney with the collection and quality assurance of data related to personal harms, and I'll get to that in a minute, and she's spoken with several times here at the Select Board meeting. As her professional work, she's represented numerous children with disabilities on school-related issues, including special education, discrimination in education, school discipline, and bullying. She also has experience in investigating and remediating abuse and neglect of children and adults with disabilities. She was the Director of Quality Assurance Department at Kings County Hospital. And as part of that role, she supervised quality assurance activities of the data collected, including incident reporting and investigations related to her work. She's also, if you talk with her, she also has personal and familial examples and experiences of bias and anti-Semitism. And importantly, she's, I think, expressed great interest and commitment to the goals of the working group. So that's Deborah. So Dan has an impressive background, professional background. He spent over 20 years in leadership development roles at Harvard and in Anti-Defamation League. At ADL, he's worked right at the heart of efforts to confront bias and hate. He understands both the damage a bias incidents cause and the system communities need to place and to respond effectively. He and his wife, Ellen, are raising their family here. Their children were or out of CCHS. He's also active in the steering committee of Concord Carlisle Against Anti-Semitism, where, according to colleagues that I've spoken to, he's been a steady and thoughtful presence. He also has completed bystander training while at ADL, another sign of how seriously he takes the responsibility of moving from awareness to action. So those are two people of the 6 qualified candidates who I think would add best to the group.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have thoughts they want to share?
Yeah, I'd like to also add my second for Deborah Dorfman, because I know she's been at several of our, she's spoken during public comment, and first of all, she's qualified. I found her being passionate, but at the same time very grounded, and I think she'd be a good team player. So, yeah, I don't know the other ones. I'm just looking at their cards, so I can't speak personally for any of the others.
So I know 2 of the members, and then I outreached to the other 4, and I spoke to 3 of them and did email exchanges with the other. And I would concur with all the opinions that people have raised about Deb Dorfman. I'll also just suggest she was one of the few people who advocated early on that we needed a reporting system, and she's very focused on accuracy of data and the purpose of data collection. So to be very mindful of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and obviously respecting confidentiality and making sure that we're being accurate. I also spoke with Dan. I actually was very impressed with his commitment and willingness to dig into the details. But also, I think he's very respectful of the challenges of this group. He's not, his eyes are wide open. And I think he impressed me with sort of what those challenges are and the importance of collaboration, the education for the community, and communication in general is very important to him. If we're to be successful in this larger endeavor, I think those are important. I also just want to note that Rob Morrison actually has some very important background that would be good for this community. His work on the Human Rights Council gives him a perspective that this team could really benefit from. And, he's a former teacher, but he's been very active in the community, and I think that's a perspective that, I look at who complements who on the work group. And I think the challenge is we have lots of really good people to promote. And I don't know who the school committee member is, and I don't know who the DEI person is personally. So it was sort of hard to judge what's the right complement. But I think those 3 individuals would be very strong candidates.
Those were the 3. I won't repeat, but those are the 3 that stood out to me as well.
Right.
It did occur to me that having having somebody who was an educator on the group would
Beneficial.
would be potentially quite beneficial, which makes it a difficult choice for me.
Right. Same.
Yeah, for me, it's not about, they all sound great. It's about getting a broad representation from the town. So I guess, Paul, if you're the select board person, I'd maybe ask you to comment for folks on the breadth of representation, so different age groups of people, they have kids in schools, are they all focused on, anti-Semitism, or is there a broader sort of reach that they have? And like, if we're gonna consider, having, so we're gonna have a group here that's gonna decide something for the whole town. I really wanna make sure that we have a broad representation and that we're not sort of selecting kind of from the same sort of small cadre of people.
Yep.
And there's, that there's a real sort of breadth of different representation.
Yep.
So I don't know if you have thoughts on all that and how the group kind of comes together.
I don't know who the school committee rep is. I think Agnes is a different candidate she brings a different perspective.
Based on, I don't know.
What's Agnes's background? I don't know, or what? I'm just not, and I don't mean, I'm critical, I'm just trying to figure out.
The reason, to me, and I'm gonna just throw this out here and the rest of the select board can say, that's why I think we should be nominating people at the next meeting and not at this meeting. Because to me, like, who's the school committee representative? We don't know. How are we getting this is a really important issue. How are we getting broad representation across the town? How can we say to all the people that are listening to this meeting, hey, we've thought this through. This is why this group is gonna be the best, because they're representing, this cross-section of people, or because we've thought this through in this way. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, because I know you've done a lot of the work here. But I just think it requires that for us to be able to say, hey, look, we did all this. If everybody else is like, nope, I'm good, we've done all the homework, I feel like we need that to be able to tell people this is
Okay,
why
just a slight pushback on that. We've had these names for a while, and I think it was incumbent upon us to kind of be knowledgeable about their qualifications or talk with them. I will say that Agnes is a woman of color, a young woman of color from the DI Commission. I don't know her background beyond that.
With kids in the school.
Excuse me?
With kids in the school.
With kids in the school. Definitely a younger demographic.
I think, too, it's important to recognize that we put this group together to pick on a particular task, which is get us started on how we're going to augment incidents. This is not the group that's going to solve this for the community. We get to be a part of that on an ongoing basis, and what we are doing here is trying to take a specific piece of work around how to begin to collect some useful information that hopefully we will be able to track longitudinally to understand what kind of progress we're making on the bigger issues. And that's to say that, we're expecting that our group, partnering with the school committee and with the DEI Commission, is going to continue to work on community engagement issues and trying to educate the community on what's going on and continuing to speak out on this. So this is really just a piece of that puzzle. And
it is, exactly.
And so I think
it's a piece of the puzzle.
It's pretty useful to get it going quickly rather than that. Tracy's going to help us out with when the school committee's going to give us a name.
Tracy Verano, School Committee. Actually, I'm speaking with the school committee now, I guess. We are meeting on Wednesday night. Our meeting's in Carlisle, and this is part of our discussion. We started the discussion at our CPS meeting, which was last week, but we are going to have a discussion with the regional school committee, and then we will appoint someone on Wednesday night and bring it to you.
Yeah, and maybe just while you're there, Tracy, I recognize that you're approaching this as a regional school committee, and so presumably it's one of your members, and it could be the Carlisle representative. And, to me, that would be okay, depending on, but that's my personal opinion, because I feel like this is the type of issue that easily crosses our, northern boundary. It certainly doesn't end 4 miles from where we're sitting. And I know that Carlisle has had some of its own experiences Others may feel differently about that, and they feel free to express it if you do. But that's just, I would certainly be okay with that.
The charge asks for a representative.
Yeah.
So I think that's fine, too.
Yeah, I'm in two minds. I mean, that could be beneficial to get the perspective, but it is a Concord system. It has to be somebody who's looking at Concord.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm.
Although when we invent the perfect system, we'll be happy to share it with Carla.
Carla, I think it's,
We'll sell it.
if I might just for.
APP 10 though, as far as?
Well, I think if it says, we were a little bit vague in this charge. We didn't
Right,
actually say
deliberately.
a school committee member, we said a school
representative.
representative. So it's possible they could get creative there, but I think it would fall within the bounds. That's why I'm raising it right here, right now, just so that they have the benefit of this discussion when they do talk about it.
And I guess we would really hope that it would be a school committee member, because it feels like it would be representative of more people.
Yes.
And it wouldn't be a professional in the schools, it would be a school committee member. And I guess the other thing, just to keep in mind with our Carlisle membership, we do get a lot of feedback that Carlisle really wants their voice, and they are represented at our high school. So I do think that we have to offer it as a discussion for the regional school committee. And I would think that it would be okay if it was a Concord member or it was a regional member.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Just observation, we
Go
have
ahead.
three names
Right.
floating around.
Yeah.
At least there's at least 3 votes, or three supporting. We haven't voted yet.
So one last question.
Yeah,
Are any of
yeah.
these people on existing committees? Is there?
No, they're not. Actually, none of them are.
Yeah.
No.
I know none of them are, right.
Yeah.
So could
So
we
we don't
have
have-
further discussion or take a vote on one at a time to see if we get 3 votes, or
Well, you need,
how do you want to
you
proceed?
need 2 people, right?
Yes.
Right,
Yeah, we need to.
so we do them one at a time, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what's the best way to resolve that.
Well, we may have 3 votes if we vote on the names. If we don't.
Well,
then-
I mean, I've said my piece. If people want to, I would defer the vote, but if people want to vote, we vote. I think somebody could just make a
Yeah.
motion to say who they want to nominate, if that's what.
Yeah, I think that what I'm trying to think about is whether it would be better to make a motion around 2 names, or whether it would be better to if we voted individually, we could theoretically end up voting them all on it, which would be, which we don't want to do. So we have to, I think
But if we
maybe.
do one at a time, if we had 3,
Maybe whatever
you want to do.
I'm thinking this, and I'm thinking out loud, so let me make sure this is going to work. One option would be for us to individually name the one out of the 3 people that we would not choose, assuming that we would choose the other 2.
I didn't like
I once
that.
had a calculator to do it.
Well, Court's going to try and help us
Court's
out.
gonna, oh, jeez.
I mean,
Sorry to cut it.
Yeah.
If I might, Cord Booth, 144 Wright Road, co-president of the Human Rights Council. Mr. Bohm put forth 2 names initially. The 3rd name that came about is a candidate, Mr. Morrison, from the Human Rights Council. We'd be delighted if he would serve. He's served admirably in education in this town. However, the first 2 candidates you put forward are eminently qualified, and I know Mr. Morrison would join us in supporting those candidates.
Thank you.
And I agree with you, Mark. I don't think putting individuals up or down
Yeah.
is necessarily the best course.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay,
Given that, can I make a motion?
sure.
Sure.
Please do.
I move that we nominate Deborah Dorfman and Daniel Hart as community members to the Bias and Hate Incident Reporting Working Group.
Thank you. Do I
I'd
have a
second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you for agreeing to serve. Thank you for volunteering.
Thank you
Okay.
all for the discussion. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and
And I just want, I agree with all of your, said it has to be, this has got to be a thoughtful exercise. And,
okay. So is there more to say on the status of either the working group assignment or the bias and hate work in general? Let me see. I gotta check my notes.
I think we're good.
I do too.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For now. More to come.
I think we're good for now.
We're-
We didn't approve this last
I
time.
could talk for longer if you guys want.
Yeah, I think we,
What do
I
you
think we did,
Yeah.
I think we did approve it.
We did approve it,
I have
right?
a note on here that says approved
I was
9:15,
gonna
so I
say,
think,
but we're
I
not
think
gonna-
we're done with the
Yeah, yeah.
charge.
I thought we did,
We
yeah.
approved the
Okay.
charge. We've got the liaison and 2 at-large members.
Right.
We're soon going to have the
Okay.
school committee, so what's happening with the DEI?
And that'll be an appointment.
The DEI commission, we already appointed Agnes.
Oh, we did? I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
so,
So she's been on.
so this group,
Yes.
in theory, after the 20th, this group will be ready to go.
To your question on progress, I was going to save it for the liaison report, but I do want to mention that there was a meeting between the regional school committee chair, the DEI, the advisor, the superintendent, and the DEI commission chairs recently, a coordination meeting. It was a very successful meeting. They agreed to coordinate monthly, and they also discussed, the DEI commission was interested in having student advisors, some students from the high school associated. We have to define what
That's a
that means.
good idea.
I think the superintendent was very supportive of that,
Mm.
so that's favorably received. So I think there was good progress on the
That's
whole
great.
effort. It all has to
really good.
move to the next step, and I think there was some question of how 2 high school students, and they've already been identified, are associated with the commission. Are they liaisons? Are they, how do we define them, or do we have to define them?
Yeah.
So I think there was good progress that was made,
Okay.
It's great to hear that collaboration. It's really nice to hear.
but it continues.
Yeah, yeah,
Good.
it's great.
Yeah, I would just observe that I think that there are incidents that are continuing to occur
Yes.
of various kinds of speech, which is, let's call it, not as respectful and not necessarily worthy of being of repeating the specific ones. I think that we need to continue to express the fact that it is possible to disagree without being disagreeable, and that these types of incidents, particularly incidents that call out people by name or impugn the motives of individuals, and they're either in their volunteer elected roles as administrators of our town. And I think that we want to make sure that people understand that there's a microphone right over there, and every 2 weeks they can come and give us 3 minutes of their best argument for what they think we should be doing differently, and we're interested in listening to that. And that's an appropriate way, and we sign up to do that. I think that there are other ideas that people are having about how to send messages that are considerably more fear-inspiring and less productive ways of trying to do that. And so I hope that people will take our invitation to come here and tell us, not only what they think is wrong, but what they think we can do about it. So I'll just make that comment, and we'll move on to our close to last item as we pick up more and more time. So we have an annual discussion about the merit bonus for the town manager, and this was previously scheduled, but we have decided to do this in open session. And you'll recall, and I believe it's there's a memo in the packet today, which outlines the previously completed review assessment of the town manager that we did also in an open meeting. And so now it comes to us to compute a level of bonus compensation that's associated with this. Just quickly for review, this is a one-time merit bonus, which is computed as a percentage of last year's base salary. In other words, the salary that was paid for FY '25 for performance in FY '25 based on our assessment. Our performance rating out of a 3-point scale was 2.174, and where 1 would be below satisfactory, 2 would be satisfactory, and 3 would be above satisfactory. The memo that was in the that actually is still in the packet refers to a cost of living adjustment for FY '26, and that should have been corrected. There was no cost of living adjustment for the town manager in FY '26 because what we actually had was a renegotiated base salary based on a new contract. So that any adjustment from FY '25 to FY '26 was incorporated into that, not as a cost of living. The contract does provide for future costs of living in subsequent years of the 3-year contract. So with all of that,
Yeah, but to be clear, tonight, we're not talking about salary, we're not talking about cost, it is
Right.
purely
Bonus.
it is a
bonus based on
bonus.
last year's
Right.
performance.
Right.
Yeah,
June
and
30th.
Right.
to be also clear, that merit amount does not get added into pensionable earnings. It is a one-time thing, and it doesn't,
Right.
Yep.
that's one of the reasons why if you're looking at an early version of the agenda, it was misstated as an increase. It's really not an increase. It is a flat rate.
One time.
So I did some math, and I have
I did too.
a
I wonder if it's
proposal.
the same.
Yeah.
We might have the same math.
I did some math, too.
You
Did you?
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
So we're going to
This is
compare,
easy.
we're going to compare our math.
Okay.
I'll put mine on the screen, assuming I believe I can share. So, okay, that's showing up. So the town manager's FY '25 base salary was $237,543.75. The performance range was 1 to 3 or 2 points. The performance rating was 2.174, which is 58.7% attainment in range. And so based on that, with the merit range being 5%, I came up with 2.9% merit, a merit increase of 2.9%, which would be $6,971.91. I realize that there may be other,
That's my math.
is that your math?
That was
I'm
my
checking
math.
my math.
Yeah, I mean,
I did something slightly different.
Okay. If,
yeah.
this is, there are other ways, but
Yeah.
that would be my
Yeah.
proposal.
But
Yeah,
the-
that's
I mean,
a good start.
Can I just ask a question? The 58%, what is that? What's the math?
That's just the-
2.174
yeah,
divided
That
by
was how
what?
far in the range?
How
we
far
were.
in the range?
Between 1 to 3? How
Right,
far
so-
in the
Yeah,
range? were we?
So-
58.7% in the range of
In the
1 to
range.
3.
Oh, okay.
Could
I
that
did
be
something
rounded up to
different.
3? 2.93, I mean, literally, that's the right number, but, I don't know.
I did
No,
2.174
let's
of
just
3.
see if we like
Yeah.
the.
Well, so for me, I would be of the mindset that if you're below 2, your bonus is 0.
Mhm.
So I would kind of start the math at a different level.
Okay.
That's just me.
So,
How would-
say
explain
that
it, how would you-
So meaning if, to me, if you're below a 2, saying, hey, you're between a 1.3, 1 and a 3, you've achieved 58, if you're below a 2, to me, you'd be at 0.
0.
I'd say
I'd
0.
start the scale at
Yeah,
2.
Yeah.
oh, I
So
It's more sort of.
you would have gone to 17% attainment essentially.
Well, the hard part is, it's also, the practical reality is it's also very hard to give, who's ever gotten a 3 on every rating? Right, so,
Yeah.
the reality is it tends to more sort of go like, if somebody was 2.5 or higher, they'd get the full amount. If somebody's below a 2, they're gonna get 0. So, then you sort of go like, okay, each 10th of the point's worth 1% or something, right? So,
Yeah.
it's all different, you could come up with a different formula, right? But that, to me, would be more of the math.
So what would the number be if you went
I would
under
be,
17?
I would not want to go over 2%.
Okay. Your question is, I didn't calculate that low. But a 2% would be 4750
Right.
essentially.
Yep.
Oh, and the 5% or full attainment would be 11.9.
What was your math, Wendy?
Well, it was different. I didn't do that. Well, I did 2.174 divided by 3, which is a higher percentage, which is 72%. So it's
So Cameron's logic is actually, I'm going to take this down since I think everybody's gotten a chance to see it.
Yep.
Cameron's logic, I think, makes some sense. When we're saying below satisfactory, satisfactory, and above satisfactory, it does seem to me that when you're talking about merit bonus, in other words, performance for relative to performance overall, if the overall rating was below 2, I would actually also agree that that is probably a needs improvement rating. And in any bonus system that I've been a part of, particularly in the private sector, that is not grounds for seeing really anything. That said, we are talking about a composite rating across 5 people, and there were some areas, I think, where there were some individual ratings that were a 1, and some areas where some individual ratings were a 3. So as I thought about this, it seemed to me that because we're talking about a combined composite rating across 5 people doing a rating across multiple things, it made some sense to consider the whole range there. But again, this is up to us, and it's reflective of, in the packet, we do have a range of options spelled out in the memo, between 2 and 5%, and it really is a reflection of how we want to do this. So, but my personal opinion was that this has been this year had some challenges and some exceptional things, especially, in the 250th. But I also would point out that there's been, some areas, particularly let's call it the stresses that occurred in the finance department, that I think are areas of concern. So it's a very broad job, and it's very difficult, I think, to fire perfectly on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not, you see the rating there, 2 point, whatever it was, 17. I would agree with you, Mark. I think, there's some things that went off well in terms of like the 250th and stuff like that. I do think there's some challenges that we're continue to talk about and we continue to work through. So, again, for me, like, below 2, you're kind of 0. If you're 2.5 or above, you're really sort of probably hitting it on all cylinders. I'm more in the 2% range, or the 2% recommendation. I just think, when we look at, the sum total of what's been accomplished, I think there's some good things and there's some more things that we need to keep.
Mark, did you say the COLA doesn't apply this?
It does
So-
not. It does not.
not.
Does
Okay.
not, because
Okay,
this
so it
was
does
the
not.
Got it.
FY26 is the first year of a new contract.
Okay,
Right.
I got it.
Yeah, so there was no COLA.
Okay.
Well, related but slightly off topic, at some point, not tonight, I'd like to just kind of discuss the rating system moving forward.
Yeah,
where we can
I
improve.
would agree with you. I
Yes,
want
we
a
need
different
to-
scale.
You mentioned
Yep.
some things are more important than others, weighting and,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's on the agenda sometime. fine.
I did,
Yeah.
when I started to actually work on this in this way, I did feel like it's it feels like splitting hairs, you know. There's some people that think that you should rate things using a Fibonacci sequence because the numbers are, you know, 1, 3, 7, 13, kind of, because you get enough distinction in the numbers to really say, this is distinctly better than that.
As long as we can talk about it, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm sorry to take it off topic.
No, I think it's a very important
Yeah,
point.
it's not
because
easy. Okay.
It is.
All right, so I'm waiting for a motion.
So I'm going to make a motion that we approve a 2% merit bonus for Carrie LaFleur for her fiscal year '25 performance.
So a 2% amount just is $4,750.88.
Yes.
So the difference would be $2,000 between what your number was and?
I was proposing $6,971.91.
And this one would be what? A 2% would be what?
$4,200.
$2,200 difference.
Yeah.
750.
4,700?
Yeah,
Great, so it'd be $2,200?
Yeah.
yeah, it's essentially almost a 1% difference.
I-
I mean,
So you're
Okay,
looking for
I really felt that obviously that the math that Mark did was accurate, which is, you know, the midpoint is 2. We rated Kerry above the midpoint, the range was 0 to 5. You know, we have to reward people for meeting objectives. It's not a hard, it's a hard job. And I think in order to keep Kerry and to keep progress towards the goals, to even debate $2,200, I'm gonna vote against this
let me
motion.
just make, did I hear a second for that?
No, you did
I'm
not.
Sorry,
Okay,
sorry,
well,
rambling.
I will second it, just so that we're
Okay, we're
discussing it.
seconding it.
Okay.
Okay. And so,
Okay, you gotta take a vote.
yeah, and all those in favor?
Aye.
No?
No.
Okay. Do I
Make
hear
a
another motion?
I make a motion that we award a bonus of 2.95%, was that? No, 2.93%, which would be $6,971.91.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the scale should really start at 0. Because, you know,
Yeah, we gotta align
I'm not
those.
sure why
We're gonna
it's
have
at
to,
2.
we're gonna have to work on the
Align
range.
We're gonna have to
Yeah.
So
align those.
we'll discuss that.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, so,
All right, now,
are we
liaison.
done?
No, we're not.
no, we're not done.
Oh, we have a liaison.
Yeah,
Liaison reports.
liaison reports, and then we'll go into executive session for a couple of minutes. Okay. Anybody have anything new on liaison?
I do. I should have put this in the packet.
Yeah.
Huh? Like everybody else did, but I didn't do that. So I'm not going to take a long time. I just want to mention a couple of important things. So I was at my first PEG Access Committee meeting, and now that the Comcast contract is settled, and Jason did a good job describing all that, I think the main job of that committee is really not only to monitor the contract, but play an advisory role to the Minuteman Media. That developed. So, you know, and I think that group is actually looking at their charge and thinking about that. So it may actually turn out to be a Minuteman Media Advisory Group as opposed to, or some combination. But the important part is the 2 vacancies on that PEG Access.
Yeah.
I think it's an important opportunity to kind of play a role in the public access channels. And by the way, you probably know the Comcast contract added an additional channel to it,
Oh,
which they haven't
that's
determined how
right,
they're going
they
to use
did.
that channel, and they're going to, Comcast's going to make that HD. So it's good contract. You already talked about the Public Works Commission and TAC and what's going to happen on the 28th. The West Concord Advisory Committee met recently, and it's kind of interesting. That's a subcommittee to the Planning Board. But they actually, so at that meeting, Phil Griffiths came and talked about ride-out resurfacing. Susan Beck from the West Concord Cultural District talked about a sculpture potential in Junction Park. And Jennifer Schooneman talked about the Guitar Museum. So West Concord Advisory Committee is sort of interacting and has interests and tentacles in different situations beyond just advising the planning board. So they're thinking of actually talking to the planning board about, because they have a meeting on the 21st about revising.
They do that, and they meet with them twice a year.
Yeah, but should it remain a subcommittee to the planning board, or it should be something different? And so they intersect other committees.
Can you tell me more about the sculpture in Junction Park?
I can send you.
Send me the information.
It's an early suggestion.
Because there's been quite a bit of discussion around safety in Junction Park.
Well, it's an area off in the grass where the green thumbs can't do anything. No, really. So they're coordinating with the green thumbs.
But what about
They
the
got thumbs
cyclists?
up
Will
on
the
the green-
cyclists go over there?
No, it's so.
Only the mountain bikes.
Anyway, it's
Only the mountain bikes, yeah.
it's an
Okay,
early,
sorry.
interesting concept.
Okay, great.
I can give you
Thank
more
you.
information.
Okay, good, thank you. I just wanted
so
to.
I made that up.
I think that, yeah, those are the
Great, thank you.
interesting things that happen.
I'll just mention really quickly that the League First Friday was held last week on Friday, and the MCI Advisory Board was the update was the topic of that for anybody who might want to get a little bit caught up in what's going on in MCI. That would be a good place to.
It's a good meeting,
Yeah.
and lots of
Yeah,
good
it's really good.
questions and answers at the end, too. It's great.
Okay.
All right, are we ready to move on?
Yeah,
Are we ready to?
Actually, I've got one thing to add to my liaison report, which is a little bit of research that I did with the help of Keith Bergman around how long the building permits for both the Novo and the Thoreau residences,
Yeah.
given that they're 40Bs, how long do we have till they expire? Because
Yeah.
we discussed that, but I
Yeah,
don't
we
think we
did.
knew. And according to Mass General Law, the Novo permit was issued April
April.
16th, 2024. It's good for 3 years, so that would make it good until April 16th, 2027. The Thoreau Residences was issued April 3rd, 2025. For 3 years, makes it good through April 3rd, 2028. And then if, for some reason, these projects go beyond that, it would be hard for the town, well, I think it'd be difficult for the town to deny them a renewal because there's precedent for making that. You'd have to come up with a very, very good cause for doing that. So I guess my interpretation of this is these comprehensive permits are good for at least through 2027 and 2028, and then being renewed
Could be renewed.
Could be, yeah.
Hmm.
So that's good, just good to know.
But
That's
Novo
helpful.
was off the SHI, but
Right.
Thoreau is still on.
Right, but Novo's permit, I guess, I mean, you're saying it's good for 2 more years, so they still have 2 years to pull their permit.
Yeah.
But they're off the SHI,
Yeah,
They would go
Right.
back on the SHI if they pull
pull
a
the
permit.
permit,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
no,
No, they
Yeah.
have a year.
no, they have a permit. They have a permit. I think it's
No.
more,
But
No, they don't have a permit, they haven't pulled their permit.
They don't have a building
they don't
permit.
They don't have a building permit.
building permit. I'm
That's,
thinking
that's
of
why they fell off
They
the.
have an approval, yeah,
SHI.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
it's
have a plan
comprehensive,
approval
yeah.
or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good, that's all I have.
Okay. All right,
All right, so we're
so we're taking a motion to
going to make a
enter
motion.
executive session, not to return to open session.
Okay, so I move to enter executive session under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body and not return to open session. This is a roll call vote. So, Mr. McKennett?
Aye.
Mr. Bohm?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mr. Howell?
Aye.
Ms. Ravelli, aye.